Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Chaos Child. We've learned that the crazy pyromaniac is in fact deceased, or we believe. We have no clue how someone else killed her, because as you know, psychic powers need to have someone nearby, or at least aware of them, in order to function. So the mystery on how she died isn't quite clear, but it appears, for all intents and purposes, she's dead. Yes, it also turns out that our sister might be psychic as well. We think she might be like telepathic with Yuto. It's a little bit hard to gauge, just she hasn't like manifested it intentionally or summoned her sword Emiya style. Speaking of which, I'm still disappointed that no one has used Emiya's line. I feel like they definitely could have done that. Everyone's freaking projecting swords and nobody's quoting Fate Stay Night. I'm slightly disappointed. Alright. I could see her sitting at the dining table with her head drooping down. And past her, hiding in the kitchen, Yui and Yuto were looking on, worried. There was a cold cup of English breakfast tea on the table, and Yuki was pacing around, wondering if she should make a new one.
Tadaima.
I'm back. I'm back!
こんばんは。
Hello. They all looked relieved to see me.
タクルにセリカさん、よかった、来てくれて。
Takuru, Serika, I'm glad you came.
Ah.
Yeah, no problem. I waved to Yui a little and tried to talk to Karus.
大丈夫か、クルス。
Are you okay, Karus? You just found out like your childhood friend is dead? Karus slowly looked up as if she'd only just now realized we were here. The game all the psychic stuff in everyone's heads? That seems a little bit dubious. So in that case, would that be like the people who died are like killing themselves? Because if they are still being murdered, then like the entire contents of the game would still be real, except for the psychic parts. Alright, she slowly looked up as if she only just noticed we were here. Her tone made it obvious she was trying to hide her shock. I don't know why some of the people would commit suicide, though.
心配して来てくれたの？ありがとう。
It doesn't make sense for several of the people who committed suicide. It wasn't like they were like super depressed and they were like looking forward to what was happening that day. With like, there's no like evidence that they were suicidally depressed, or they were like maybe the musician in the second opener, I could believe was suicidal. But I don't think the streaming guy I don't think the streaming guy was suicidal, and I don't think the reporter was suicidal. Someone's convincing him to kill themselves. Yeah, I think that's associated with like what the power of the guy that's killing them is, or whoever's killing them. Maybe he's unnaturally charismatic, maybe he's actually like mind controlling them, who knows? We haven't actually met him or had like a hint. We haven't even seen like the guy's freaking shadow where we're like, what's this guy, we have to get him. Like right now, we're in a chapter where we think we're safe and that the calamity's over, but like, you know, with any good book plot, the problem shouldn't resolve itself by the protagonist doing nothing. And it wasn't even like we found something out and had someone do something. It's like our protagonists defended themselves in what might have been a scary encounter, and then the villain's suddenly dead. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Even like the protagonists were kind of confused and unaware that the villain they think is the big bad is gone. So I think there's definitely more to come. It's just we don't know what's next. You came because you were worried? Thanks.
Ah, Itoも来るってさ。
Yeah, Ito says he's coming too.
そう。そんなところに立ってないで座ったら。
I see. Why not sit down instead of just standing there?
Oh.
Stretching my legs.
そうだ。
Stretching my legs. Always the right answer. Hey, you're right.
うん。
Yeah. Sarika and I sat across from her. Yuki quickly brought us some tea.
クルスさん、お茶新しくしましょうか。
Shall I make you some new tea? Okay, what tea does everyone like? I personally like really fruity tea. Like English breakfast doesn't really do it for me. I also kind of like Earl Grey, but I try to avoid I'm trying to avoid caffeine right now, so I'm stuck with just the fruity stuff. Kind of avoid all the herbal teas. I feel like are rather middling or middling to mediocre. Like I like something with an enjoyable flavor where like chamomiles and stuff are kind of just like eh. It's like it's got a herbal flavor, but I don't enjoy it. It's like I'd rather smell this flavor than eat it. Like I don't like the taste of tree bark and leaves. I want to taste something that I actually want to eat. Arizona green tea. Yes. It's like 90% sugar, but yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. Arizona green tea is really good. Right. Are we getting tea? No. You're fine? You're fine? Thanks. Alright. No tea then. Bruce smiled and politely refused. Yuki looked a little sad.
Na, Kurusu.
Hey, Karus? Yeah?
あんまり気にすんなよ。
Don't let it get to you too much, okay?
アットチャンネルなんて秋っぽいやつらばっかりだ。人の噂も75日とか言うけど、75日も持たない。
Everyone
多
on
分1ヶ月も
2chan.
しないうちにみんな忘れると思う。
Everyone on 2chan has the attention span of a 3-year-old. They'll forget it within a month.
だから、その間だけちょっと我慢すれば。
Lemon tea, that's a good thought. So, if you can just get through this 1 month.
私のことはいい
That's
の。
not what bothers me.
何を言われても別に構わないわ。
I don't care what they say, but
でも私の大切な人たちや大切な家に迷惑がかかるのが
I can't
許
forgive
せ
them
ない。
for doing this to the people I care about or to Alba Dorm. Is it that bad, though? I guess you could just write a press release and be like, I'm not involved with her at all. In fact, she tried to kill me last night. Which, she tried to kill a member of my family last night and the week before, which was, I wasn't even aware she was still alive, and she's a fucking psychopath. But that would be, I don't know how well that would go. I'm not an expert on the media. If you're like, yeah, that chick's crazy. Shit, man. All I knew about her was she was a fucking pyromaniac my friends told her about, and then I saw that she was dead and was like, oh, I made the connection. Dang. Paparazzi? Yeah, we're surrounded by the paparazzi right now. That's why she's stressed out. And she found out her friend's dead, and people are like, oh, she's a serial killer, and Nono was in league with her, I guess. It's like, you have no picture more recent than 6 years ago, pre-earthquake, and you're like, clearly these people are serial killers? Like, okay. I feel like they really amped up that narrative, but whatever. We'll see how this goes. It's like a day of stress. This is the first day, so it's probably a little bit stressful. Since they're getting a ton of news attention, but it'll probably fade in a couple days. It's not a big deal. Or I think it's probably a big deal for like a couple days, and then it probably doesn't really matter. Yui and Yuto ran out from the kitchen and grabbed onto her from both sides.
ののね、平気だよ。私なら全然平気。
No, we're fine. I'm fine, just fine.
僕も大丈夫だから。
I'm fine too.
ゆうと。
Yuto.
でも、学校でいじめられたりしたら。
If they bully you at school.
そんなの気にならないよ。
It won't bother me.
っていうか、ユウをいじめるようなやつがいたら、私がただじゃおかないから。
If anyone tries to bully you, they'll have to deal with me. Well, that's very brave of you, Yui. Carissa's eyes were wet with tears.
ごめん。
Sorry, sorry.
どうしてののねえが謝るの？
Why are you apologizing? I don't even know what she has to apologize for. That's a good...
何
That is a
も
very
悪
good
いこと
question.
してないのに。
You didn't do anything wrong.
そ
You
うだ
didn't
よ。
even interact with this
謝る
person.
ことないよ、のんちゃん。
That's right, you don't have anything to apologize for, no? Everyone rushed to defend her, but that only seemed to make it worse. Looking at her made me feel angry. Where had the information leaked from? And why would information come out that made her look like an accomplice just because she was an old friend of a serial killer? It didn't make sense. It was crazy. Yeah. Very strange. Then I realized something was wrong. I've been so shocked by what had happened, I hadn't had time to think about it, but this doesn't make sense at all. Two-chan was always looking for a new target to make a fuss over, and Senrim and Amisawa fit the bill perfectly. Had there really been enough time for them to start focusing on Caruso and Albador? Even for Two-chan, that was weird. Again, someone's directing them. Yeah, that's why my first guess was that it was Kay directing them, because you're like ignoring her news channel or some shit. She might have posted that. Because this guy hasn't checked the actual he hasn't checked what he perceives as the actual news, which appears to be ahead of the actual news cycle. He's just been told that things are going on in the mainstream news, and he always says at the start that like checking, Nico Nia internet news and specifically Kay's channel is the best way to find out about shit. But he hasn't been doing that for the last few days. Let's see. As soon as I had the thought, I froze. Someone set this up. Were they after Caruso or maybe Albador? But why? Why? Who would do that and for what purpose? What could they gain by going after Caruso or Albador? I mean, it's a pretty good start to say if they go after... There's like 3 freaking psychics in Albador, and why would you not go after it if you're trying to kill all the psychics? Damn, it doesn't make sense. It also works if you have like Kay, who's really pissed off that you're doing things to her, and she has a lot of media influence. Because she seems to be like insanely unprofessional. It doesn't make sense. I took the phone out of my pocket and dialed the number.
Taku?
What's wrong, Taku? Everyone looked at me surprised. I motioned for them to be quiet and stood up. I needed to move somewhere I couldn't be overheard so as to not worry Caruso more. I hurried to my own room and focused on the sound of the ringing phone. Come on, pick up. Who does he desperately want to pick up? Is this Shinjo? Or Arimura? After a long time, there was finally an answer. Shinjo, first guess. Yeah! Oh, Miyashiro, good, I was just about to call. Shinjo was in as much of a hurry as I was. I could often yelled. Why is this weird information getting out? It's about the internet? Cybercrime's on it. Give us some more time. More importantly, what does he think's more important? Obviously not. Why would the police leak? The police don't need to leak shit, you dumb fuck. They have official channels to tell everyone. That's what we're trying to find out. Why would you assume the police did this? I swear to God, he's done this twice where he's assumed, like, the police did something, and it's like, if the police want to do this, they don't give a flying fuck. They'll do whatever they want, and they'll like, fucking own it, because it looks really bad if it's something they didn't want out. And this isn't really working with them, because they specifically wanted it under wraps. Because the person who requested they keep this secret is Shinjo. It doesn't make a lot of sense for him to publicize it. Like, what? Like, it's like someone reveals a secret to you and is like, hey, let's just keep this between us, okay? And then someone else finds out, and you're like, did you fucking tell them? And it's like, why would you assume this person is the person who revealed the secret when they're the person who's, like, specifically asking you not to find out, right? Oh, well. Alright, not a big deal, it's just, like, a mild irritation. He thought about who might have leaked it, but I don't think he's thinking the right way. Let's see. Maybe he accuses Kay. Kay wanted to leak it, and is not always cooperative. Shinjo sounded a little upset. He probably didn't want to think that any of his colleagues had leaked important information. You literally have like a massive unofficial colleague in Kunosato who consistently doesn't do what you ask her to. More importantly, where are you? Albador, why? Good, listen carefully. Your life is in danger.
これは君たちの命に関わる重大な話だ。
Your lives are in danger because it's pretty obvious someone leaked it and is trying to make you look like a killer. Again, this is like back to Kuno Sato. The main character is a conspiracy theorist. You know, everyone on the side of the government is evil. They see everyone in the government as potentially... Yeah, conspiracy theorists are crazy and like it, but there are plenty of reasons to know that the government is not necessarily on your side. And several scenarios where they definitely aren't. However, in this case, your interests both align for the most part, as they don't want you dead. The things that you know they don't want you being put under public scrutiny and have them revealed, right? It's like, you have a secret, the government doesn't want you telling anybody. Why would they put you under all this public pressure where you're pressured to tell the truth and reveal the secrets they specifically don't want you hiding? Like, it just seems like a dumb idea from there. Like, it doesn't seem like it benefits the government. Obviously, politicians are stupid, but like, for Shinjo, who's the person in charge of the case and is one of the few people who knows anything about it, it doesn't make a lot of sense for it, so... Yeah, but yeah, you're right, he is a conspiracy theorist. Still, like, Kuno Sato has, like, a motive, a method, a means, and the information. Like, she has everything there. It's like, if you wanted to frame Kuno Sato for this leak, you did the killer did a really good job. Because, like, she obviously has the means to spread this information and get it into the public eye really effectively. So she has the motive because she's pissed off at you. She hates psychics, and like all of you are working together to like ruin whatever she's trying to do. So if she wants you fucking dead, or even if she's like the killer, that like makes perfect sense. And like what else do you really need? She has all these things. Now obviously you need actual proof, but that's like it's like a little bit suspicious that this leaks 5 minutes after she's like, fuck these guys, they're annoying. Story-wise, at least. Oh well. I mean, I wouldn't assume she did it, but like, if you had to point a finger, that would be my first guess, right? The other person, the leader of like the Frisia company or whatever her name is, Momose or whatever it is, I don't think she'd leak because she seems like she's semi-professional. She's like professional enough and doesn't seem personally involved in the case, so she wouldn't like randomly leak news. Alright, so our lives are in danger. Oh? Our lives are in danger? Yeah?
俺も君たちも大変な勘違いをしていたんだ。皮肉な話だが、ネットに情報が漏れたおかげで判明した。
Both of us have made a terrible mistake. Ironically, the leak on the internet is what cleared it up. A mistake?
君や有村さんを襲ったパイロキネシスト。
The pyrokinetic that attacked you and Arimura.
南沢千里じゃなかった。
That wasn't Senri. What? My eyes went wide as I stood there in shock. My grip on the phone tightened. It wasn't Senri? But everything lined up. The hair color, the psychic powers, the limp? Really? It wasn't Senri?
Ah.
That's right? Damn, alright. Then who was it?
灰田莉子だ。
Riko Haida. It's actually Riko Haida. But wasn't that an alias? Yeah.
そう。俺たちは灰田莉子というのが偽名で、偽の身元だとばかり思っていた。
Yeah, that's what we thought, that the Riko Haida identity was false and being used as an alias.
でも、ネット上に彼女を実際に知っているという情報がいくつも書き込まれているのを見つけたんだ。
But we found several comments online from people saying they actually knew her.
最初はただのデマだと思ったんだが、一応その書き込みをもとに彼女の故郷と言われる場所を地元警察に洗ってもらった。
At first we thought they were fake, but we used the comments to track down the place where she supposedly grew up and had the local police check it out.
その結果、灰田莉子の実在が確認された。
And we discovered Riko Haida really exists.
そんな。
What?
マンションで見つかった焼死体の歯の治療痕も地元の歯科医の記録と完全に一致した。
Dental work on
間違
the
いない。
body in the condo matches records at the local dentist perfectly. There's no doubt.
俺たちが南沢千里だと決めつけていたパイロキネシストは灰田莉子という全くの別人だったんだよ。
The pyrokinetic we thought was Senri Minamisawa was actually Riko Haida, a completely different person.
ちょっと待ってください。
Wait a second. I moved the phone away from my ear so I could think for a second.
見つけた。
That woman wasn't Senri? And did the real Senri Minamisawa die in the Shibuya earthquake, like Karus said? Then why come after us? I'd never known a woman named Riko Haida. I'd never met her or even heard the name before. I couldn't think of any reason why she'd come after me. Yeah, what's she doing with Minamisawa's ID card then? I couldn't think straight. I just kept coming up with new questions.
もしもし、宮代君
Yeah, sure. Are
聞
you
いてる
there?
か？
はい。
Yes. Yeah, I'd be off put there. It'd take me a minute to respond to that. I'd be really surprised. I'd be like, what the hell? She's carrying her ID card? She's trying to actively kill me specifically? Like, who the fuck is this person? I put the phone back to my ear when I heard the panic in his voice.
さっきハイダリコの検視結果がようやく出た。死亡推定時刻は10月23日の未明から昼頃にかけてだ。
We got the forensic results back on Riko Haida's death. She died sometime between early morning and afternoon on October 23rd.
10月23日
The 23rd?
そうだ。その時間帯に彼女はすでに死んでいた。
By that time, she was already dead.
でも23日の夜僕はカフェで襲われたんですよ。
But I was attacked at the cafe on the night of the 23rd.
これは久野里さんの説だが、君を襲ったのはハイダリコ本人じゃない。多分別の能力者がハイダリコの妄想を君に見せただけだ。それしか説明がつかない。
Kunosada's theory is it wasn't Haida herself who attacked you. It was another psychic who created a delusion of Haida that you saw. It's the only explanation. Dude, that is the most straightforward explanation. I'd believe that 100%. I already was theorizing that, because, like, why would Riko Haida have the ability to, like, manipulate your mind and make you think you saw someone when her actual psychic ability seems to consistently be pyrokinesis? Either that or she was using her mind manipulation to make you think you saw fire and has just general reality warping, but it seems like most people's abilities are very specific, laser focused, so having like a pyrokinesis and a telepathy doesn't make sense. So I'm glad that's what they're going with and that they've come to that conclusion real quick. Makes sense? Another psychic? I felt a cold, sticky sweat on my forehead. I mean, we did have another psychic as an accomplice. That was our prediction. I'd suspected it many times, but in the end I discarded the possibility. I don't know why you did. We said it. It didn't make sense. That's why I thought it was all over.
ハイダリコの頭部はかなり損壊していて、すぐにわからなかったんだが、脳に肥大化の痕跡が発見された。猟奇殺人の他の被害者と全く同じだ。
Riko Haida's head was badly damaged, so it took time to find out, but her brain shows the same enlargements as the other victims. Meaning someone murdered her, yeah?
おそらく彼女は思考を操られ、自分で自分を串刺しにした挙句、さらに自身の体を燃やしたんだ。この異常な手口も他の被害者と共通している。
She was probably mind-controlled into stabbing herself with that rebar and setting herself on fire. The method matches the other victims.
じゃあ真犯人は10月23日に能力者であるハイダリコを惨殺したということになる。
Then the real killer slew Riko Haida, a psychic, on the 23rd?
そうだ。スケジュール通りにな。
Right on schedule.
ってことは
I was too scared to say what kind of... You know, this would be like doubly creepy if we were doing these on the appropriate day. It's like the 23rd right now of November, so it's not that scary. But man, could you imagine if it was like the 23rd of October and I was doing this? Shit, that'd be crazy. I was too scared to say what came next. Shinjo said it for me.
ニュージェネの狂気の再来は23日で途切れてなんかいなかったんだ。事件はまだ続いている。
The return of the new generation madness didn't end on the 23rd. The murders aren't over at all. Well, today was the 28th. If the murders weren't over...
気をつけろ、宮代君。多分誰かが狙われてる。
Careful, Miyashiro. They're probably after one of you. The first thing you should say is call Arimura. I'm going to try to rush you to it. I felt like every hair on my body was standing on end. I imagined a hand reaching out from somewhere and putting a cold blade to my neck.
新庄さん、僕たちどうしたら。
No, the first thing you should say is get to Arimura. She's by herself right now. She's probably dead. Joe, what do we do?
一人になるな。君の
Don't
とこ
be
ろに
alone
は
right now.
後輩を向かわせてる。
I'm sending an officer. Arimura's by herself.
俺は有村さんの家へ行って彼女を保護する。
Ah, there we go. I'm going to Arimura's house to keep her
君らの
safe.
ところへ向かう
Then
か
I'll
ら。
head to where you are,
いい
understood?
ね。
Ooh, she might be dead already. Her
はい、
parents?
お願いします。
Wait, thanks. I hung up, jammed the phone into my pocket, and ran out of the room. My legs were trembling, and I almost tripped several times. Like, horror movie protagonist, right? Literally walking out of his room, almost tripping 3 times on what is presumably a flat surface. Come on, bro. When I got to the dining room, Karus and Sarika were folding everyone's laundry.
何かしていないとつい悪いことばかり考えてしまって。
I'm not doing something. I'll just start thinking bad things. Bruce forced herself to smile as she looked at me, but she must have seen the look on my face because the smile faded instantly. Oh boy.
どうかしたの？
What's wrong?
タク？
Talking.
ユイたちはどうした？
Where are the others? I couldn't see Yui, Yuto, or Yuki.
ウキちゃんと一緒に佐久間先生のお手伝い。今日はもう委員を閉めるんでお掃除をしに下へ行ったよ。
They're helping Sakuma. The clinic's closing for today, so they went downstairs to clean.
そっか。
See. Dad probably figured it. That with all the media outside, he wouldn't get any work done today, so he must have decided to close up early. I looked out the curtain and saw the street was filled with vans. Not one of them showed a sign of moving. Leaving, sorry. Whether this was fair or not, even though I'd hated them a moment ago, I felt glad they were here. With this many people, no matter who they were, the killer wouldn't be able to get at us easily. What are you talking about? The killer can literally walk right up to your door and no one would notice. Because there's like 20 people there. I went to close the curtain and saw there was some kind of commotion going on outside. What? The window glass was too thick for me to hear, but something must have happened while I was on the phone.
尾上、クルスのこと頼む。何があっても絶対にそばを離れないでやってくれ。絶対にだぞ。
That's probably a murder. I'm guessing Arimura's dead, but it could be someone else. No way, take care of Cruz. Don't leave her side for a second, no matter what. That was okay. She was just like, okay. Here, if something happened, tell me. Yeah.
後でちゃんと話すから。とにかく任せたぞ、尾上。
Poison with the bit. You take your leave. Well, it was a great bit part. He had a small role, a little bit to play. Quite enjoyable though. Alright. Anyway, I'm counting on you, Onoe. Okay. Don't die, Onoe. I'd like it if you weren't dead. I like Arimura too, but it seems like she might die because she's like by herself going to her parents' house. Which screams, I am the target for a murder. Especially if like you can't identify all the people in the crowd surrounding your house. And she just left. Okay. These two weren't psychic, so they were probably safe. But it was best to be sure. I ran down the stairs to the clinic. I could see Uki and Yuto cleaning up the equipment in the exam room.
父さんとユイは
Where's Dad and Yui?
父さん、外でマスコミの人と喧嘩してる。
Dad's outside fighting with the media.
喧嘩
Fighting?
はい。委員の窓から中を隠し撮りしようとした人がいたんです。それで佐久間先生が怒って外へ。
Someone was trying to take photos through one of the clinic's windows, so we got mad and went outside. I listened carefully, and sure enough, I could hear Dad arguing with what sounded like a
ユ
reporter.
イも父さんと一緒なのか
Is Yui with Dad?
え、お姉ちゃん？
Yui? Yuto and Uki looked confused.
お姉ちゃんならさっきタクル兄ちゃんのところへ行ったでしょ？
She just went to find you, didn't she?
何
What? Yui went to find
いや
me?
来てないぞ。
I didn't see her.
でも確かに寮へ上がっていきました。
But I saw her go upstairs to the dorm.
そんなバカな。
That's impossible. I turned around and ran back up the stairs to the dorm.
ユイどこだユイ
Yui? Yui? Where are you? I couldn't find her though, no matter where I looked. She wasn't in her room, in the bath, or the toilet. I looked everywhere. After I looked everywhere I could, I finally decided to check the dorm's emergency exit and shivered as I saw the inside latch was undone.
いつもはきちんと
It's always locked.
てるはずなのに。
Did she go outside? Why? Why did she go outside? I could feel my heart pounding with terror as I ran back into the clinic. She's not
や
there.
っぱりどこにもいない。
She's not there.
そんなはずないよ。
Impossible.
さっき伊
Ito
藤
just
さん
came.
が来て。
Ito just came.
伊藤
Ito?
はいそれでゆいさんは伊藤さんと上へ行ったんです。
Yes, she went upstairs with Ito.
伊藤と一緒なんだな。ユイ一人じゃなくて。
She was with Ito. She wasn't alone?
はい
Yes.
そうか。
I see. I breathed a small sigh of relief. If it was just Yui, she might have been in danger, but if she wasn't alone, she wouldn't be as easy for someone to attack.
とにかく伊藤に電話してみる。
Anyway, I'll call him. As I took out my phone, Sarika and Karus came into the room. They were worried. They looked more worried when I told them Ito and Yui had vanished.
ゆいと伊藤くんが
Yui and Ito? Yeah,
どこ
it's
行
kind
っ
of
ちゃっ
weird,
たん
isn't
だ
it?
ろ
Where did they go?
もしもし伊藤が
Hey, Ito?
ああ、宮代。
Okay, good. Ito's fine.
お
Oh,
前ど
Mishu.
こにいるんだ。
Where are you?
どこってコンビニから帰るところだよ。買い出ししてきたんだ。
Just heading back from the convenience store. We did some shopping. Ito's voice was the same as ever.
ユイは一緒なのか。
Where's Yui? Is she with you?
そばにいるけど。
Okay, she's right next to you. I mean, he did say we, so you kind of get the assumption that he's with someone, and Sarika's right beside you. Nono's right beside you. Like, who the hell else is he gonna hang out with, right? Alright, she's right next to me.
そうか。
I see. Felt relieved, but screamed into the phone anyway.
お前な、コンビニに行くなら誰かに断ってからにしろよ。ユイまで連れ出してみんな心配してんだぞ。
Going to the store, tell someone, and don't take Yui. Everyone was freaking worried.
確かにそうだったな。
Yeah, right. Sorry.
とにかく急いで戻ってきてくれ。ユイが危険かもしれないんだ。
Anyway, just hurry back. Yui might be in danger.
それなら大丈夫だろう。ゆいちゃんに何かあったら、俺が手術して治してやるからさ。
Oh, don't worry about that. If something happens to Yui, I'll do an operation to fix her right up. Come again.
あ
What? My mouth hung open for a second. An operation? The hell is he talking about? We hear screaming in the background. And then I realized I could hear muffled moans next to him.
おい、伊藤
Hey, Ito?
今のユイの声じゃないのか。
Is that Yui's
何やっ
voice?
てんだ。
What are you doing?
あのさ、俺、いつか佐久間先生みたいな医者になろうと思ってたんだよな。
You know,
知ってたか？
I always wanted to be a doctor like Dr. Sakuma. You know that?
だから何してんだよお
I
前。
said, what are you doing? Okay, I swear to God, this should be call 911. You should be like 911. Like getting your buddies to call 911 and being like, shit's not good, but it's okay. This is a tense situation. It'd be pretty hard to like consciously do that. This guy's pretty prone to panic. Well, it sounds like, see what it seems like is Ito's taken Yui hostage and is like snapped.
やっぱコンビニで買ったナイフじゃ切れ味が悪いな。確かに痛いだろう、これじゃ。
This knife I bought at the convenience store doesn't really cut that well. This is probably gonna hurt. Looks like Ito's gone completely mental. Ito, stop joking. Put Yui on the phone.
宮代、お前さ、急いで持ってきてくれないか？ちゃんと切れるメスと麻酔薬。
Ito, could you bring me a knife and some anesthesia real quick?
あと、骨を切るノコギリみたいなのなかったっけ？これじゃあ、ゆいちゃんがかわいそうだ。
Oh, you got that thing that cuts bones? I feel bad using this on Yui. It seems like a weird thing to play out. He hung up.
Yui! Yui!
Ah, the classic movie character thing. The person hangs up on you. You can audibly see the call ended on your smartphone, and you're just like screaming into the microphone. I don't know why people do this. They should just be like, oh shit, alright. Either redial and be like, and scream in when they pick up, or like, just move on. Maybe I haven't been in this situation often enough to understand this, but if the phone's been hung up, if you've been hung up on, like, there's nothing you can do. The audio's not going to go through. I push the call button again and again with shaking fingers. Wrong response. This is a 911 situation, my friend. You literally have a cop headed to your house right now. Please, 911. Alright, he must have turned off his phone because he didn't pick up. What's going on? Why is Ito? My mind couldn't keep up with this. It was too much to believe.
Takuru, Yui ga douka shita no?
Takuru, what happened to Yui? It's okay. We're busy panicking. Please give us a few minutes, No. Now, Yui will be dead in 5 minutes, but we're gonna take our time.
なんか悲鳴みたいなの聞こえたけど。
I heard what happened. Sounded like a scream. Takuru?
Takuru ninja.
I like this guy's response. It's like, we're in an emergency situation, we need to do something. And he just does nothing. I know it's frustrating, but it's kind of funny. After seeing it like 5 or 6 times, it's kind of just amusing now. Like, it's not like a laugh out loud moment. It's kind of just like a, oh, you. Things would be so much better if you weren't a complete idiot, but here we are. I suddenly felt like I was about to throw up. I shoved my face into the sink and tossed up everything I had in my stomach. It was like I was vomiting up hate, fear, and despair. No matter how much I tried, it wouldn't stop. The natural response. The natural response to any emergency situation. We should do nothing, do something unproductive. Oh. Man. Pick both, apparently, is the option. Are you okay, Takuru? When I'd thrown up so much, there wasn't even any stomach fluid left. So he threw up like 10, he threw up like what? That's like 3-ish times? It's like 3-4 times you throw up before there's literally nothing, if you've like eaten recently. This is clearly like he's throwing stuff. I turned around to see Karus behind me. Okay, so let's imagine we're in this situation. Someone has taken your sister hostage with a knife, and it's like, I'm gonna slice her open. Pity this knife's so dull, it's probably gonna take a while. And you're like, I should hurry and do something about this. And your reaction, instead of calling the police, telling people there's a problem, is to panic, throw up, and just sit there for like 5 minutes. Like, he doesn't even try to communicate. He's like, I'm just gonna throw up. It's not a big deal. I just heard some sick stuff on the phone. Give me like 5 minutes, and I'll explain what might be happening. It might be a good idea to calm down, but other people need to go through this process too, and you're being like super inefficient about it. Like, he hasn't even attempted to think of a plan of action. Alright, we turned around to see Karus behind us. Couldn't he have done that, like, while he was on the line? Call Shinjo? Call Shinjo? Yui's gonna be killed. Yep. Take that shit seriously. I let Karus handle getting in touch with Shinjo and ran out the emergency exit to the dorm. Yui, where are you? Answer me! My voice echoed down the rows of heads as nearby reporters ran over. What's happening? You can literally just say right now, my friend Shinji Ito just took Yui, a little girl, hostage and threatened to slice her up with a knife. Can you go find her? She should be within walking distance. Look, you got literally like 30 reporters. This should be like instant headlines of, hey, you guys surrounded the building and someone took someone hostage while you guys were making a mess. Like instant headlines. Hostage taken. We have like a potential murder or a hostage. Like this is grade A journalist stuff. Okay, did something happen? Did someone just leave this way? A boy my size and a girl a little younger. Did you see them? Did you see them? Those two? I tried to interview them. They ignored me. Which way did they go? That way, I think. I ran in the direction he pointed without stopping or looking behind me. Hey, you. Good enough to get that info. I'm fine with that. Alright, I could hear them asking what happened, but I didn't have time to tell them. Ito, where are you? I ran, screaming the names of my little sister and best friend. It hurt to breathe, but I couldn't stop running. My only thoughts as I ran were of Yui's safety and Ito's strange behavior. Ito, why? What are you doing? His tone had been the same as ever. It was the exact same tone he used when he was laughing about the latest weird school gossip. Why would he do that to Yui? It had to be some kind of mistake. Amusingly enough, it is an uncomfortable but true fact that generally, if you've been murdered or sexually assaulted, it is probably someone you know, rather than a mysterious stranger. Statistics sucks. Sorry, guys. Because Ito wouldn't do that. Wait, no, wait.
もし他に犯人がいるなら23日だって南沢千里に代わってそいつが事件を起こしたはずだろ
If there was another killer, they would have done something on the 23rd since Senri Minamisawa didn't, right?
けど実際は何も起こらなかった
But nothing happened. So it's impossible, I think.
ってことじゃないのかな
Yep, before we took it down, he did say it was impossible. He was encouraging you to give up, but...
なんつうかさ、副部長が辛いと思うんだ。
Let's just give it up. It's hard on the VP.
僕が別の能力者の可能性を完全に排除してしまったのはあの時だ。
That's when I gave up on the idea of there being another psychic.
人はクリスのことを引き合いに出して僕に考える間も与えずに。
Ito used Karus to keep me from having time to think. Yeah, that's right. Karus is still sabotaging us. What are we, like 10 chapters into this? And Karus's hatred of us investigating anything is still ruining us. He took that important note down and threw it away. That was deliberate? It might not have been deliberate. So the thing is, he might be being mind controlled right now, but this character's not thinking about that. He's not thinking that all the other people didn't make sense to be doing the actions they were. He's thinking Ito's doing this himself. I think he's being mind controlled by the actual killer. But we'll see. It could be Ito. Like, it could be. I'm not saying it isn't. It just seems more likely. It seems more likely that the killer would be Shinji, but we'll see. The more I thought about it, the more unbelievable it seemed. Yui Ito! How long had I been running? My throat was dry and it stung. I was gasping for breath and in dire need of water. Is this guy physically active? That could be like as little as 2 blocks. Sweat was dripping off of me. I was so out of breath I couldn't think. He was also panicking, so he's not like breathing efficiently. And was probably out of breath from like the panic attack he was having earlier where he was literally like so terrified he was just throwing up all the time. He threw up several times. So, where am I? I looked around and saw I was in a residential area of Shibuya the reconstruction teams hadn't gotten to yet. There were a lot of abandoned houses. Even during the day, there was little foot traffic, and there was always rumors at night. You could see the vengeful ghosts of the people who died in the quake wandering beneath the streetlights. It wasn't far from Alba Dorm, which meant that during my search I must have circled back without knowing it. Just as I was about to turn around and head for Miyashita Park or Hekiho Academy, I heard a faint sound, a tiny noise like tearing cloth. I thought I might have imagined it, but forced my aching legs forward to look in the alley where I'd heard it. The lights didn't reach into the alley, so I could see nothing but darkness. I could hear the sound of water going drip, drip, drip. Someone's house pipe must have broken. I took a step forward into the darkness as if I was being drawn by the sound. Suddenly there were several sharp metallic clangs at my feet. I quickly jumped back, surprised. My eyes adjusted to the darkness. I saw they were paring knives, and all of them stained dark with something. The blades bent or broken in places. This knife I brought at the convenience store doesn't really cut that well. I felt something cold crawl up my back as I remembered Ito's words.
Oi. Yui? Iru no ka? Yui?
Yui, are you there? Yui? I took another step forward. There was what felt like a puddle of water at my feet, and I heard a splash. There was no answer. I took another step forward. The splash got louder, and I realized the liquid was sticking to my shoe. I looked down and saw my shoe was stained with the same dark red color as the knives. This isn't just water. Alright, the wind must have changed course because the moment I had that thought I smelled something awful. I inhaled a full breath of the stench before I could cover my nose and mouth. And then I looked towards the source of the smell. When my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I could see it. What's this? And there we go. Alright, well that should be a nice, easy investigation. Guy admitted to it on the phone. Easy arrest. And he's probably got his prints all over the fucking corpse. Alright. It was unpleasant, but somehow seductive in the sweet, sweet smell of meat. I could see small boxes laid out in the rough shape of a human body. It looked like some kind of grotesque homemade doll. The dark red liquid was flowing from the boxes. I suddenly felt an urge to throw up. How long did it take me to realize I was staring at what was left of my little sister? Because of that, it took me a little while to notice the man further down the alley staring at the pool of blood. You, why? He was holding the murder weapon in his hand. It was dripping with blood. What? Yeah, answer me, Ito! Ito hopped over what used to be Yui and spoke to me in the same pleasant tone he always used. Why? That's my question. Alright. Alright. Huh?
お前さ、
That's your question?
なんであの時助けなかったんだ?
Why didn't you save her back then?
あの時
Back then?
なんで見捨てたんだ?
Why did you abandon her?
捨てたって
Abandon who?
誰って?
Who? Senri was suffering so much.
あんなに苦しんでただろうが!
Senri? Senri Minami-sawa? Why was he saying her name? Why was Ito talking about Senri?
ああ、どうだ! 自分の大切 失う気分は自分の無力さを思い知りながら後悔に苛まれる気分は
Tell me, how did it feel to lose something you cared about? How does it feel to have nothing but regrets and to know how powerless you are? Force, knife, face. He hasn't even touched his telekinesis yet. Although, he is able to access it during strong moments of emotion, so goodbye Shinji? Because he seems to be like mind alteration type and not anything else, right? If it's actually Shinji. It's hard to tell, right? Because the other people, it didn't make sense that they killed themselves. So it's like, it being Shinji is... He could just be mind-controlled still. It's kind of hard to tell, right? It's like, as scary as he is, you're like, is he being mind-controlled? I can't tell. Alright. I felt nothing but confusion. What I was looking at didn't seem real. I just stood there and stared at Ito's face, dumbstruck.
俺にとってかけがえのない存在だった。それをお前は見殺しにしたんだ。
She was everything to me and you let her die, but now my revenge can be complete. Let's see. I think here the best case, I'm trying to think of what the best case of action is. If you don't think he can mind control you and he's being mind controlled, it's like a 50-50, right? You either think either he's actually this deranged or he's being controlled. If he's this deranged, you probably want to just watch him and see what he does. I don't think you kill him, simply because there is an off chance that he's not the mastermind and he might be being mind controlled. It'd be really hard to kill him here. If you weren't aware that mind control was on the table, killing him or like holding him in place or doing something would be a good idea. Actually, I'd probably just want to kill him, but you know, you have this doubt, right? Like you're like, okay, might have been mind control in the previous setups. Like we're wondering how are these people doing this? They seem unnatural, so might not be Shinji here. It might be someone else, like a ghost or some shit. I was thinking ghosts would be improbable though, so I didn't want to like suggest a ghost. Alright, Ito. What was the relationship between Sanori Minamisawa and Ito? What happened between them? It didn't look like I'd have time to think about that. Ito's knife got steadily closer to me.
次は宮代の番だ。よく切れるメスと麻酔薬は持ってきたか。
Now it's your turn, Miyashiro. Did you bring that sharp knife and anesthetic?
それがなきゃひどく痛くて。
If not, it's going to hurt real bad. Just like it did for you.
ゆいちゃんみたいにな。
This doesn't make sense. He hasn't even taken everything. He's taken like one of your siblings. It'd be like everything if it was like all your family was on the line, but it's like one person. I know that's like super callous, but it's like it's not everything, it's one person. And Senri technically got out of the place, according to what's her face, she died in the earthquake. Anyway. It's gonna hurt bad like it did for you. Alright. Ito smiled a murderer's smile. So that's how it's going to be. For some reason, I'd lost the capacity to think clearly. That was the only thought that was left. I'm not even going to look like a person when he's done with me. Just like Yui, the feeling overwhelmed me. All I could do was stare at Ito's bloodshot eyes and wait for the moment of my death. Takuru! And then, I heard what sounded like a scream behind me. It was enough to drag me back to my senses. I got 2 witnesses now. 2 witnesses! I looked back and saw Takuru standing under the streetlight, her shoulders heaving up and down. Ito, what are you doing? Her eyes went wide at the knife in Ito's hand. Oh, stay back. He'll kill you too. Get away from here, Cruz. I wanted to tell her to get away, but only meaningless noises came out of my mouth. It was like my vocal cords had been paralyzed. I appreciate our protagonist will somehow survive this, but it is incredibly amusing that A, he by random chance found him, and B, hasn't died from his inaction or like stupidity yet. He easily could have been just stabbed to death while he was doing nothing. Natsumi Ito. Chris did the exact opposite of what I hoped she would. She ran into the alley, blocking my way out. At the same time, she noticed the boxes filled with body parts and the stinking pool of blood. She gasped.
これ
What is this? Takuru?
タクルゆいは
What
どう
happened
した
to
の
you? So, I'm gonna. My perspective on this is she literally turns her back on Ito and is like, "What's going on?" shaking you, and you're like, All right, like, come on, bro. Also, red eyes again. Curious. Pyromaniac had red eyes. Did Pyromaniac have red eyes when she attacked us? I could have sworn we saw red eyes elsewhere, and Ito doesn't normally have red eyes. Alright, tell me, where's Yui? Oh, here we go. We're so fortunate this guy isn't just running up behind Nono and stabbing her to death for giggles. Like, it seems like something he'd want to do. If he just runs up behind Nono and stabs her to death because our character's doing nothing, I'm gonna feel bad for, you know, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like Karus, but I'd feel really bad for her if she got killed because of our stupid protagonist. Like, she's not my favorite person, she's a little bit controlling, but she doesn't deserve to die for that. Like, you know, you can be a dick, but you don't need to die for that. Come on. I was finally able to speak, but I couldn't answer her question. It was pathetic, but tears started to well up in my eyes, and I couldn't stop them. Ito answered for me, flipping the knife from one hand to another as he spoke.
ああ、ほら、気をつけなよ、副部長。その箱を一つでも踏み潰したら、ゆいちゃんを組み立てられなくなる。
Careful, VP. Step on one of those boxes and you won't be able to put Yui back together again. Bruce jumped back and started to shake as she stared at the boxes.
嘘
Can't be happening.
嘘でしょ
She sank to her knees and reached out towards what used to be Yui, not caring that she'd be soaked with blood.
嘘
Can't be happening.
絶対に
No.
嘘
She picked up something long and thin. It had a pretty nail on it, one which had never been manicured, even though its owner was old enough to be interested in makeup. It was Yui's finger. I'm gonna, like, come on, guys. There's literally the killer in front of you, and your reaction is like, oh no, the killer's in front of me. This guy easily could just, like, walk up to you and stab you in the face. Like, he literally chopped your sister into, like, 20 pieces, and your only reaction is like, well, that's unfortunate. You're like, oh, that's unfortunate, I'll just stand there. It's like I'm an NPC. It's like an NPC in fucking, it's like an NPC in, like, a video game or something where they're like, oh, well, that's about it. It's like, oh, there's, like, 20 guards dead here. Yeah, okay. Oh, wow, I'm dead. Oh, wow, that's amazing. All right, like, you shouldn't either of you be reacting? You even knew this was a possibility when we were like, she's gonna get fucking murdered. I mean, she's clearly died like a few minutes ago because we spent like God knows how long running around. But all right, so where's the cops? Let's see.
だから副部長、勝手に触らないでくれよ。ゆいちゃんが綺麗に見えるよう芸術的に詰めたんだから。
Come on, don't touch it. I put it all together artistically so Yui would look pretty.
どうして
What?
どうして
全部宮代が悪いんだよ。南沢千里を苦しめたから。その復讐さ。
It's all Miyashiro's fault. It's revenge for how he made Senri Minamisawa suffer.
千里の
Senri's revenge?
復讐
そうだよ。千里はもっと痛かったろ。苦しかったろ。しかも実験が辛くて死にたいと思っても死ねなかった。
That's right. It must have hurt worse for Senri, and even if she wanted to die from the pain of the experiments, she couldn't.
ゆいちゃんなんてまだ幸せだよ。
Yui was
こ
lucky.
うし
She
て
got
す
to
ぐ
die
死
quick.
ぬことができたんだからね。
When I heard those words, something snapped inside me. The fog in my head cleared instantly and my blood started to boil. It was a rage I couldn't control. The next thing I knew, I leapt at you with my... Really, buddy? Your response is, I'm gonna charge a guy with a knife with my bare hands. Like, you aren't a martial artist. This guy is clearly okay with slicing people to pieces. So it's not even like he's gonna have like some moral or like physical, visceral reaction to the thought of stabbing someone. Like, he literally cut someone into tiny bits and you're like, maybe if I rush him, he'll, like, you have telekinesis? Force knife face. Like, there's like 10 knives on the ground. You don't even need to steal his knife. Just be like, magic knives face. You like almost did that to someone already. Come on. Ah. He pointed the knife straight at me as if he'd been waiting for this. I could tell it was pointed straight at my neck, my carotid artery. If I'd been more calm, I would have known better than to jump on him without defenses. But now I couldn't hold back my anger. He's literally, like, he didn't even hesitate. He didn't even hesitate to, like, be like, okay, run into my knife. Like, knife, it's like, point, swing, easy. You got range on him? You got a better weapon? Like, you gonna use that TK? He must have thought he had me, because a cruel thin smile formed on Ito's lips. I knew I was going to die. I hoped Karus at least might be able to get away. The last thought that went through my head was... Sorry, Yui. We got caught up in this, and you... If heaven was real, this is probably where... That was probably where Yui was going. Still, I'm very confused why he thought that was a good idea. Even his previous rage reaction, he's reacted once with anger in the past before, and his first reaction was to try and crush someone's wrist with his telekinesis, who was holding him. And this is his reaction when someone actually has a weapon threatening him, is to dive at them. It's kind of weird, but it's okay. It's okay. I guess you're not like 100% in your right mind here. It's alright. But I knew without a doubt I was going to hell, so I'd probably never see her again. No screaming. Eh? But the moment of my death never came. Instead, I heard Karus scream. It was a violent sound unlike anything I'd ever heard from her before. I looked in surprise and saw she'd grabbed Ito from the side, and the two of them were rolling on the ground. I would let you kill him. I would let you kill Takuru. The two of them were rolling around in Yui's blood. His reaction is just to stare. Oh my god. What a fight. This guy. He's like, oh, they're fighting and there's a knife. Oh, he's like those NPCs that just sit there and cheer you on. Like, you know, you're playing like a video game, right? And, you know, enemies always come at you in, like, ones or twos in video games, and there's, like, 10 people around you. So the rest are just cheerleading, right? I feel like that's where we're here. She didn't seem to hear me at all. She screamed like a wounded animal and tried to grab both of Ito's arms from behind. Her whole body was covered with Yui's blood, and each time she moved, her long hair flew up and sent dark splashes everywhere. Ito tried to shake her off and punched her in the stomach. She moaned in pain when the impact hit her, where she'd been stabbed before, but she still hung on. She's literally doing like half your job for you. What are you doing, you potato? Like, this guy's just like, well, someone's attacking her for me. I guess I'll just stand there and see what happens. It's like, nope. Okay, we've said like 4 lines of dialogue from someone who is literally within knife range of us. Come on. I leapt on top of Ito without thinking. I grabbed the hand with the knife and smashed into the ground with all my might. There was a dull snap as his fingers shattered and the knife fell to the ground. I kicked it far away. Karus, that's enough, get off him! I put my full weight on Ito's back and pinned him to the ground. Let me go. He was stronger than I thought. He almost knocked me off, but I refused to let go. He's still wrestling you off. He will eventually get through you. Are you okay, Karu? But she didn't seem able to answer my question. She sat down on the ground and tried to catch her breath. The shock seemed to have temporarily robbed her of her ability to breathe. Okay, well, it's Karusa's turn to be moderately dumb. It's okay. She at least didn't attack him head on and used you as a distraction, which was actually quite a good tactic. Now, since Ito is in a fight for his life, and you are not fighting like you're in a fight for your life, or neither of you are. She did for 5 seconds, but now she's on the ground resting. She should be making sure he doesn't have the knife, and or getting the knife to stop him from beating the shit out of you, because Ito's not going to stop trying to get up. Like, it doesn't make sense for him, right? Why would he just be like, oh, I'm beaten, I'm done. Anyway. Maybe she just is confident you have him completely locked down. We'll see. Alright. Big tears fell from her eyes, and when she finally cut her breath, she started to sob.
Fukubuchou. 恨むんなら宮代を恨むんだな。あの時。こいつが千里を見捨てていなければ俺だってこんな事件を起こすこともなかったなあ宮代
Ah, perfect. You've left him able to speak so that he can taunt you into doing something stupid so he can escape. Good plan, Shinji. Alright. Oh, sorry, I should probably read that. Vice President, if you want to blame someone, blame Miyashiro. If he hadn't abandoned Senri back then, I never would have done this, right, Miyashiro? That's...
全ての事件の元凶は宮代だったんだ。お前が追いかけてたはずのニュージェネの凶器の再来事件は実はみんなお前を追い詰めるために俺が起こしてたんだ。
This whole case was Miyashiro's fault. I was behind the whole thing. The entire point of the return of the New Generation Madness was to destroy him.
そんなことも調べられないで何が情報強者だよ。すげえ滑稽だぜ宮代。
How can you call yourself a right-sider when you couldn't figure that out? Isn't it ironic, Miyashiro? And he starts cackling. Alright. That couldn't be true. People died because of me. If I'd found out the truth faster, Yui wouldn't have died. I'm still not connecting the dots for this. So you made a mystery for him? And then murdered his sister. Why not just murder his sister, then? I don't get it. Oh well. I'm not an insane person, so I don't quite understand their rationale for this. Like, if I want revenge on someone, I destroy things they care about. I don't think our protagonist cared about most of the psychics that got killed. The only one he's cared about is Yui. Like, you killed like 6 people at random for no real benefit? That's kind of weird. Like, okay. The pyrokinetic, why'd you kill her? It doesn't really make sense. Why did you even resurrect the murders? You could have, like, started, like, if it's actually him, wouldn't he have just killed people he cared about? Like, he kills your teacher, and then he kills, like, some random girl in your class, and then he kills, you know, or, like, progressively closer to you, but it's kind of like all randoms and then Yui, and only because, like, there's, like, 20 psychics within 20 meters of you. Like, he's got to pick one of those at some point. There can't be that many of you. I'm still, like, suspicious that it's actually Shinji, but, oh, okay. If I'd found the truth faster, Yui wouldn't have died. Lie. Chris's voice was so soft I couldn't hear what she was saying. Huh? Kurusu. You're lying. Everything you're saying is a lie, Ito.
Huh?
What? First jerked her face upwards without bothering to hide her tears, and she stood up enraged and screamed into the sky. Who are you? Why did you make Ito do this? Whoever you are that's out there laughing at us, who are you?
クルス
Cruz?
見てるのは分かってるのよ。私の大切な妹をこんな姿にしたあなたは一体誰？
I know you're watching. Whoever did this to my sister, who are you? Something red dripped off Carusa's skirt. Was it Yui's blood or had Carusa's own injury opened again?
どういうことだクルス
What do you mean, Carus?
伊藤君は千里のことなんて知らない。誰かにそう思い込まされてるだけ。
Ito never knew Senri. Someone just made him think he did.
はあ何言ってんだよ俺は大好きだった千里のために復讐を
Same. Oh, what are you talking about? I love Senri. This is my revenge.
だからそんなの嘘。私は千里と一緒にずっと過ごしてきたのよ。千里はあなたに会ったことなんてない。なのに復讐なんてありえない。
That's a lie. I was with Senri the whole time. She never met you. There's no reason you'd want revenge.
バカなこと言うなよ俺は千里を愛してたんだだから千里のために
Did I say mind control? Did I say mind control? When did I say mind control? Was that right at the start when I was like, that didn't make a lot of sense? Don't be stupid. I love Senri. That's why I'm doing this for her. I could tell Ito's body was starting to shake underneath me. His teeth were chattering as if he was afraid of something.
それも全部デタラメよ。千里はあなたなんて絶対に知らない。
Yeah, it was so obvious. It was obvious, right? It didn't make a lot of
あなたが千里を愛
sense.
しているはずがない。
He hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything like vaguely suspicious. Like we played two games of Danganronpa. We kind of get us. We don't have a high level susometer, but we do have one where we're like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. We have enough of one to know like when someone's being a little sus, and he's pretty fucking clean. Until the scene where he does that, he was squeaky clean. It's another lie. Senri never knew you, so there's no way you could be in love with her. No.
伊藤
Ito flailed about. Foamy bubbles were pouring from his mouth. His bloodshot eyes had rolled up into his head. They were so swollen they looked like they might burst out of their sockets, and... Huh? Suddenly, blood started pouring out of both of his eyes. It wasn't Yui's, it was very clearly his own. Okay. Sorry it hurts, Shinji. Ito. I called him Shinjo. When I recoiled, he crawled out from under me. Oh my god! You let him go! Come on! And then he crawled out from under me and curled up on the ground. He grabbed his head with his hands and started to spasm and flail about. It hurts so much, my head's going to burst. Ah.
おい伊藤
Ito!
伊藤君
Ito! Ito tore at his head and finally started banging it against the ground.
やめろおい
Stop it! What? Ito! Yet Carissa and I grabbed him and tried to stop him. His forehead had split open and the blood coming out of it mixed with the blood coming out of his eyes. It was impossible to even tell what he looked like now. But he shook us off and started to jerk and flail some more.
離せんりやしろ俺は千里を見捨てたお前が許せないだって俺は千里のことを千里って誰だ南沢千里そうだ犯人だ宮代を狙った殺人犯
Let me go, Miyashiro. I'll make you pay for abandoning Senri. I love Senri. Who the hell is Senri? Senri Minasawa? That's right. The killer, the one who went after Miyashiro.
気をつけろ宮代あの女はまた襲ってくるぞ千里はお前を恨んでるんだだってお前はあの子を見捨てたんだからな
Watch out,
だから
Miyashiro.
俺がこうして復讐してやったんだ
She's coming after you again. She hates you. She hates you because you abandoned her. That's why I'm getting revenge.
だからゆいちゃんが死んだのもお前のせいいや俺がゆいちゃんをこんなにしたのかよ俺が
Ooh, that is a good thought. Was Arimura brainwashed at the Love Hotel? But why was she alive? Oh, she might have been brainwashed because she was found unconscious at the scene of the murder. Wait a minute. Arimura can tell the truth, can't she? Arimura has the ability to tell when people are lying, right? What is the most adjacent power to that if you were to say someone had a more useful version of truth-telling? Pretty straightforward. If one way to perceive the truth is to observe someone's actions, emotions, or to read their fucking mind, and that's commonly associated with mind control. That's a little bit suspicious. Arimura? If we had to pick a psychic killer, the magic killer, I feel like it would be Arimura. Although we don't really know her motive either. She has no motive, but she has a method. She departed here, so we don't. She departed the hotel to kill someone, to presumably kill someone. We didn't. I don't think we knew where she was during the day, right? I'm trying to remember. Oh well. She was present for the. I don't think it's her. She wasn't present for the. She was with us the whole time for the other murder, right? For the murder of the reporter, I think she was with us the whole time, so it doesn't make sense for it to be her. So it's probably another party we haven't seen. All right. I think she's not the killer. I just don't know why she's not dead. It seems like this killer can only mind control one person at a time, maybe? That might be the reason. It's your fault, Yui died. No, wait, it's mine? I did this to Yui? It was me? Ito? Ito was shouting loudly, but he wasn't making sense. It was as if what Karus had said was right. Someone was controlling his brain. I did to Yui. I always thought Yui was a good girl. She got along with Miyashiro so well. I was a little jealous. But I killed her for Senri. Yeah, I guess I killed her. So, who's Senri? I like this guy's laughing. The voice actor for Ito is really doing a good job. He sounds so manic. It's great. He's really selling his role. Suddenly Ito's laughter cut off, and he froze like a toy whose batteries had run out. All the strength drained from his body, and he collapsed. Your average Shinji, but this time with a good voice actor. Or at least some good voice direction. That guy did a good job. Karus and I couldn't support the full weight of an unconscious human, so we all fell to the ground. So is he dead or unconscious? Dead or unconscious? Neither of us could move for a while. We just lay there holding Ito between us. And staring at the bloody boxes that held our sister.
Yui.
So, I'm gonna be modern. You know what I'm interested in? I'm curious to see why no reporter followed them. If I was a curious reporter and someone like ran out of the building I was investigating in a fucking panic, being like, where the fuck is this person? I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. I'm gonna follow them. And you're like an adult. This guy's like fucking 14. You can keep up with him. Be like, I'm gonna get the scoop of what's going on here. It's a little bit uncomfortable. You might get like, but like, what else are you gonna see? There's like 20 newspapers there. What if there's a scoop? I'm surprised no one's followed them. I mean, even if they like walked or just wandering around. I feel like following the two people running out the multiple people running out of the building in a panic looking for someone is it might be a story. I'm surprised no one's shown up yet, but there will probably be someone to show up soon enough. Let's see. Karus started to cry like a little girl, but there was nothing I could say to her, because I felt like I was going to cry too, and it was all I could do to stop myself. Alright. I could hear many footsteps in the distance. It was either Shinjo and the police, or maybe the reporters around Alba Dorm. See? Well, there's good news and bad news, Takuru.
ないでやってくれ
The media can't actually post this anywhere, as there are standards for what they can and can't, they will and will not post on their sites. So even if they take these pictures, all they will do is verify that that's the case. You will never see this on a live broadcast. As it's pretty easy. You can see, like, from any of the videos of any shootings or any stabbings, you never see any of the actual violence. They'll just show stuff leading up to it, cut, and then be like, aftermath with no injuries visible. Alright. Or maybe that's not the case in Japan. I don't know. Is the... I don't think the Japanese news would be like R18 with like dismemberment. But they might be. Please. I closed my eyes tight. I didn't want to see anything else. I didn't want to hear anything else.
ダメだよタクルにののねって本当はまだ子供なんだからタクル兄が支えてあげなくっちゃ
It's no good. It's no good, bro. Big sis Nono is really still a little kid. You need to support her, okay? Was it her ghost, maybe? I could see Yui smiling gently when I closed my eyes. "4 days after Yui's death." Alright, so the cops haven't talked to us in 4 days. That's curious. Let's see. Are we getting a recap? The autopsy, the police interviews, all of that came to an end and Yui's body was sent for cremation. Her soul became thin, pure white smoke and soared up to the heavens. Teresa and I stood between the trees at the funeral home and watched it rise.
今の火葬場ってさ、フィルターとか通してクリーンな煙しか出さないんだってな。
They say crematoriums now use filters and stuff, so they only give off clean smoke. Yeah. I'd say something that didn't matter, and Karus would only half listen. We've been doing that for a while now. Dad was probably in the room where the family waited for the cremation to finish, holding Yuto in his strong arms the whole time. Yuki, Senri, Arimura, and Kazuki were probably watching, but they couldn't do anything.
不思議ね
It's strange, you know? I believe it's usually to ashes, since they keep everything in urns in Japan. The bones are probably ground up or some shit.
あんなに悲しくて涙が止まらなかったのに今はもう平気なのお葬式の費用のこととかお墓をどうしようとか
So sad.
そんなこと普通に考えてる
I couldn't stop crying, but now I'm okay. I'm thinking about the cost of the funeral, what to do for a grave.
私ってきっと薄情なんだわ
I guess I'm a heartless girl. Really? 4 days? They said 4 days, right? 4 days after Yui's death. Are you serious? They've taken 4 whole days and haven't even buried them? Or like done the funeral? Shit, man. I've had to cancel plans. I've had to cancel weekend plans because someone died. It was actually like my first concert I was going to. Like I think my uncle died, and I'd been like working to get the money to go to this like weekend thing for like several months and had to cancel it because he died, and literally 2 days later there was the funeral. Autopsy before. You think if they're doing an autopsy on a victim where they have to open up their brain, that they're gonna do an open casket funeral? Or like they're cremating her. They're cremating her. It's a crime and the corpse gets confiscated? Oh, maybe it takes a few days longer. Maybe it takes a few days longer, but they were pretty quick about the, they were pretty quick about the autopsy. Actually, more, well... I mean... What would you need an autopsy for? Like, the cause of death should be pretty straightforward. It's like, dismembered. Dismembered? Like, cause of death. Probably blood loss or decapitation. More likely shock. Shock or blood loss? Probably not the decapitation. But I guess you could find that out. It wouldn't be... It could take a while, but man. Like, I don't think there's too much... Like, I know they probably have to, like, spend a couple hours getting their fingerprints and shit, but, like, if the media showed up first, their fingerprints are fucked. The media showed up first, there's, like, 200 people on scene. Like, there's no way that your, like, fingerprints are gonna be clean. And you have, like, 2 witnesses and the guy with the knife. And, like, if no one opened the boxes, you literally just get the prints from the body parts and you're like, oh, okay, it's this guy, it's easy. Alright. I'm surprised it takes that long, though, for them. Alright. Guess I'm a heartless girl. Even as she spoke, she looked thin and frail from her suffering. But there was a light, like gray flame in her eyes. I'd never seen her look like that before.
いや、クルス以外にそういうのを仕切れる人がいないからだよ。父さんも気が抜けたみたいになっちゃってるし。
There's no one else who can do that stuff but you. Dad looks so out of it these days.
そうかな。
Seriously?
そうだよ。
Yeah. Except for Yui. Oh, wait. Besides, is he gonna say besides Yui? I'd already heard the muffled sobbing that came from Carusa's room late at night. After that, I'd moved back to Alba Dorm from the RV. Carus, Yudo, Uki, and Dad, all of them were shocked and saddened by Yui's death. If I were to leave then too, I couldn't bear the thought of, or the idea of a lonely Alba Dorm without me or Yui. When I was alone, I found myself remembering Yui and I felt like I was going to go crazy. I wanted to be with someone I could share my sorrows with. I was about to learn that this was what the family had tried to abandon was for, but for now, my head was full of thoughts of finding the person who'd done this to Yui.
Takuru. 葬儀が終わったら少し休むといいわ。あなたひどい顔してる。
So this person can, like, mind control anyone at any time. Like, they could just mind control Nono. Oh, I guess we're waiting to see when they mind control Nono. Because we haven't seen her mind controlled yet. We haven't seen Sarika mind controlled either. But I guess we'll have to wait. They're doing this in a pattern, so if they're intentionally aiming for us now, they'll probably, like, mind control Nono or something. Once the funeral's over, get a little rest. You don't look so good.
それはお互い様だ。お前だってちゃんと休んでないだろ。
And neither do you. You haven't gotten any rest either, right?
だって夜眠れないんだもの。恐ろしい夢ばかり見てしまって。
I can't sleep
何
at
回も
night.
飛
I
び
have
起
all
きて。
these bad dreams. I keep waking up.
ね。
Listen. Bruce tightened her hands into small fists.
一晩だけでいいから。今度タクルの部屋で寝ちゃダメかな。
Just for one night, can I sleep in your room?
Huh?
What? Of course not. I wanted to refuse instantly, but she looked so tired and kept telling me she couldn't sleep by herself. I had no choice but to silently nod. When nothing was left of Yui but tiny white fragments, we used chopsticks to move her to the urn. Told ya, no skull. Only after she'd lost most of her weight and fit inside the tiny urn did she finally attain a normal death. That was one weight off my shoulders. I didn't want her staying in that horrible state forever. Yuto was shaking the whole time as he moved his sister's bones into the urn. But his eyes were empty, looking at nothing as he wasn't screaming. Or crying. When Yui's classmates and teachers sobbed, he did his work mechanically with shaking hands. When it was done, he turned his empty eyes once more on what was left of his sister.
Yuto, 僕が必ず本当の犯人を見つけ出してやるからな。
Yuto, I'll find out who really
約
did
束
this.
する。
I promise you. But he said nothing back. The funeral ended without incident. Uki and Dad took Yuto back home by taxi. Bruce and I said our goodbyes to Sarika, Armor, and Kazuki, and then headed for home. We were walking slowly.
ユウト大丈夫かな。
I wonder if Yuto's okay.
クルスや父さんもいるし、何より山添がずっとそばについてるから。
He's got you and Dad, and more than anything, Uki's with him all the time. The loss of Yuto's sister brought back his PTSD, to the point where he was just as bad as he'd been after the earthquake. He mostly lost the ability to speak. He'd become extremely afraid of the dark, and sometimes he would go into convulsions. He'd been given special permission to leave the house to attend Yui's funeral, but normally he wasn't even allowed to sleep in his room. Dad had decided to put him up in a room in Alba Clinic.
不思議な巡り合わせだな。
Strange how it worked out, huh? It was Uki Yamazoe who was doing everything she could to take care of him. It seemed like the reason we'd saved her and brought her to Alba Dorm was so that she, Yui's old friend, could take care of him in his hour of need. When I told her that, Karus looked sad. It's just a coincidence, was all she said.
あのね、タクル。そのウキちゃんのことだけど。
Listen, Takuru, about Uki.
よかったらでいいんだけどね。そろそろ名前で呼んであげてくれないかな。
If you don't mind, could you start calling her by her first name? I felt the pain in the back of my chest again. Around 6 months ago, I'd switched from calling her Nono to Karus. Looking back, the reason was so stupid that just thinking about it made me mad. It wasn't stupid, you're just feeling bad because, like, someone got killed. Part of me was stubborn, and part of me felt just a little too embarrassed, so I'd missed the chance to switch back. I knew sometimes it made Karus sad.
その、僕は別に構わないけど。
I don't mind.
山添はそれでいいのか？
Would it bother Yamazoe?
実はウキちゃんがね、そう言ってたの。みんなに名前で呼んでもらって嬉しいって。なんだか、うちの家族になれたみたいだって。
Armor's eyes are in fact blood red in the Love Hotel? Oh, good. Yes, the first shot you see of her, her eyes are blood red and bleeding, so she was also mind controlled. Oh my goodness. People's video requests still open. Interesting. So she was 10,000% brainwashed into not knowing something and not knowing she killed it. Alright. So we know for absolute certainty, if we look at the Chaos Child art from that Love Hotel, from the Love Hotel scene, that she actually did have bloodshot eyes. Cool. So she's the killer of that guy, which is pretty straightforward. She killed that guy, but she was mind controlled, so she didn't know she did it. Alright. Felt like she became part of Albadorm's family when she's called by her first name. Alright.
でも、ウキちゃんには家族みたいじゃなくて、本当の家族になってほしいなって、そう思うから。
I don't just want her to feel like she's part of the family. I want her to really be part of the family.
ね。
You know? Bruce smiled, probably for the first time today.
わかった。山添じゃなくて、ウキ。
Alright. I'll call her Uki and not Yamazoe. Okay, got it. Wait, we weren't calling her Uki before? Shit. Was I not calling her Uki like literally every line?
ありがとう。彼女にも言っておくわ。タクルのこと名前で呼んでいいって。
Thanks. I'll tell her she can call you Takuru too.
ああ。
Yeah.
あと、
Oh.
それだったらさ。
Then should I... Can I start calling you Nono again? Just as I was about to ask.
宮代君、クルスさん。
Mishiro, Cruz?
はい。
Yes? We suddenly heard a voice and turned around. How's Shinjo doing? Shinjo was standing there. He must have felt responsible for what happened because there was no sign of his usual vitality. He mostly just stared at the ground.
すまない。葬儀に出ようと思ってたんだが、間に合わなかったみたいだね。
Sorry. I wanted to go to the funeral, but I guess I didn't make it.
そんな、気を使わなくていいですよ。お仕事相変わらず忙しいんでしょ？
You don't have to do that. You're busy with work, right?
今日は病院での検査に思ったより時間がかかってしまって。
The examination at the hospital took longer than I thought.
検査？
Examination?
伊藤君のだよ。
He says. Yeah. The silence that had developed between Caruso and I shattered in an instant.
意識が戻ったんですか？
He's woken up. Yep, he's woken up. Did they check the size of his brain thing? See if it was enlarged? I'm curious to see if it was the case. I would have like checked that, assuming he was like the second I could be like, okay, brain stuff.
合わせてください。お願いします。
Let me see him, please. Shinjo shook his head.
いや、依然
No,
昏睡
he's
状態
still
の
in
ま
a
まだ。
coma. They're doing a medical examination of his status to figure out why he thinks he knows someone he doesn't.
え？
He is? I see.
そうですか。
They also might be keeping him in a coma intentionally if he's like in danger. Or if he's
でも
like
脳の検査結果は予想通りだったよ。
his brain showed the symptoms we'd expected.
肥大化が？
Called it! The swelling!
ああ、大脳新皮質が異常に大きくなっている。久野里さんの見立てだと、これまでに見たどんな患者よりひどいそうだ。
His cerebral neocortex is extremely enlarged. Kunosada's is more severe than anything she's seen before.
それだけ長期間にわたって、しかも強力な思考誘導を受けていたんだろうと。
She says it's because he was subject to extremely strong mind control for such a long time.
じゃあ伊藤は無実ということになりますよね。
And he's innocent, right? I didn't want to think my best friend had killed Yui of his own free will. I wanted to believe he was someone's puppet like Caruso had said.
君たちの言うように、彼の後ろには誰かがいるはずだ。少なくとも俺はそう思う。
You're right, there's someone who is controlling him. That's what I think at least. But there's a hesitation in his voice. Yeah, except saying mind control is not admissible excuse for killing someone in court. So either you have to prove that psychics exist, which you're trying not to do, or you have to prove psychics exist, which you don't want to do, or you don't want to do. You can do it, but you're trying not to. Or you have to send someone who's sort of innocent someone who is also a victim to jail. Tough choice. And I'm guessing he's getting pressure to be like, that guy's the killer. So he's getting an awkward spot where he's like, all right, do I bring this kid into the office and be like, look, he can literally pick up pens with his mind, like pick up any object? Or do we want to, like, how do you play that? That's probably pretty rough. You either have to sound like a complete fucking madman, or, yeah. Rough time for Shinji with the office
た
down.
だ、実行犯が伊藤君であることに変わりはない。君たちや俺や久野里さんなら、思考誘導がいかに強力なものか理解できるし、
You
伊
could
藤君に
probably
は
go
罪
for
がないと言い
insanity
切れる
though.
が、
You could go for insanity. Maybe. I feel like if both of his friends who ran up to him after killing him were like, oh, he's insane, I think you might be able to get away with insanity. Doesn't change the fact he did it. You, I, and Kunosada know how powerful mind control can be, and we can say for sure he did nothing wrong, but
他の捜査員や
the prosecution and judge are
その
likely
裁
to
判
see
所
it
は
differently.
そうはいかない。
And so is the rest of the
世間
world.
もだ。
Yep. So you're stuck between it. You're stuck in a pretty awkward place. Either you have to prove that psychics exist, which is not only the most batshit insane thing somebody's probably said in your office, but you then have to prove it to a judge and be like, we know this for a fact. We know this. We know this one. We know this one. And you have to look like you're the shady government hiding up all sorts of murders. Like, how sketch would it be? You're like, oh yeah, there's psychics. How do you know there's psychics? Well, here's this research. Oh god, here we go. Here's these research papers on psychics, all obtained illegally and unethically. Here's this guy who's a psychic, and he's confirming it. Like, it's gonna be a real mess if you go that way. How are you going to try this, Shinjo? I feel like you could reasonably, I mean, as a witness, you could reasonably bring Takuru on the stand and be like, I'm a psychic and I can tell you that he's not the fucking killer. Check this. I'll pick up your fucking gavel, Mr. Judge. It's easy, but that's gonna be a little bit tough. Alright. He'll probably be in a cell until he gets to trial, though. Alright. Yeah, it's gonna be rough. Gonna
も
be
ちろん
rough.
クルスさんの証言をもとに
彼が洗脳のようなものを受けていたという線で捜査を進めているが、捜査員はみんな混乱してしまっている。
Of course, we're considering the possibility of brainwashing based off of Carusa's testimony, but none of the investigators are quite sure what to do with it.
とにかく不可解な点が多い上に、裏付けすら取りようのないことばかりだ。すべてが
There's too much that
常
doesn't
識
make
の範
sense.
疇を超えている。
Too much we can't back up with evidence. This all goes way beyond what we normally handle. Like I said, you have to prove that psychics exist, and then you're like, okay, we've been chasing this mind control psychic for like the last 2 months. Here are all the people he's killed. We know he's killed this person because this person doesn't remember this and didn't do it. This person clearly did this and doesn't remember it. Every murder is associated with this. People acting really strangely. People with bleeding eyes. It's like, bleeding eyes? Not being your normal self? These are like clear points of like this mind control thing going on. You know, if you're bleeding from like your eyes and nose. Like you're like, something's going on, it's a drug, we're not sure what. Like I think there's a couple ways you could probably sell this. But either way, you'd have to prove to the court that psychics exist. Which means you need a living one. Thankfully you have one that's obvious. You have one that's obvious at least. That's probably the best thing. Like, telekinesis is an obvious psychic power, and if he's like, yeah, 10 like every single person has a different fucking psychic power. It's like the fucking X-Men over here, except everyone looks normal. It's like there's no way to tell. Except for this lame-ass Rorschach. Well, maybe you have to bring up the Rorschach test as proof. You're like, well, this drives people insane if they see it, so this drives psychics insane if they see it. Let's see what happens if we show it to him. Ah! That would feel like a really bad acting job, but that would be really funny. Alright. This goes beyond what we normally handle.
ギガロマニアックスだの、超能力だの、
We can't
そん
start
な話をするわけにもいかないだろう。
we can't start babbling about gigalomaniacs and psychic powers now, can we? Oh, we can. Just how much? It's your job. It's your job, Shinjo. You're a detective. It's your job to find the killer and get him arrested for murder. It is not your job to send innocent people to jail. But I can understand that he's under a lot of pressure to, you know, do that. Move on. Shinjo bit the corner of his lip.
そのせいもあって、今の捜査方針に疑問を抱き始めている連中が増えてきた。
There's only
伊
one
藤君
reason.
に不利な証拠もいろいろと出てきてしまっていてね。
That's only one reason the department's questioning how I'm handling this case. There's a lot of evidence showing up that's not good for Ito either. Like, literally the
ど
entire
ういうこ
half
とで
day
す
work.
かそれ。
What do you mean?
例えば、なくしたはずの君のスマホから伊藤君のスマホに脅迫まがいの無言電話があったろ。
For instance, you know that threatening call that Ito got from your phone after you lost it?
はい。
Yeah. What? Wait, that was Ito? Was that Ito? But how? How did he do
単
that?
純なトリックだった。彼のスマホに偽の着信と電話番号を表示するアプリがインストールしてあって、宮代君の名前と電話番号が登録されていたよ。
It's a simple trick. There was an app on his phone that would display a fake call and a fake caller ID. It had your name and phone number registered on it.
Huh?
So that was it. Why didn't I realize that? I'd known there was a freeware app that could do that. I remember hearing how you were supposed to use it to end conversations with people you didn't want to talk to, or get out of meetings.
あと、彼のパソコンから妙なチャットの履歴が見つかってね。
And we found these strange chat logs on his
チャ
computer.
ット
Chat logs?
君たち、エド・ルーカスって名前に聞き覚えはないか？
The name Ed Lucas mean anything to you?
エド・ルーカス。
Ed Lucas.
誰ですそれ。
Who's that? Bruce and I looked confused. Neither of us had heard the name before.
それじゃあ、アミーちゃんは？
And Amy?
あ、それなら。
Oh, I know that.
都市伝説の。
That's the urban legend, right? That was the character I'd snuck into AH Tokyo General to find when I was a kid.
いや、そのアミーちゃんじゃない。伊藤君のパソコンを調べたら、そういうハンドルネームの2人が頻繁にチャットを行っていたんだ。エド・ルーカスというのが伊藤君だ。
Not that one. Logs of those two nicknames chatting were found on Ito's computer. Ed Lucas was Ito's handle.
チャットの内容は一連の殺人や宮代君を監視しているような内容ばかり。犯行動機として十分すぎるくらいのね。
The chat logs consisted of a discussion of the murders and lots of detailed observations about you, Miyashiro. More than enough for a motive.
そんな
So how long has he been mind controlled for? Because that was like the first chapter.
でもそのチャット相手を操作すれば真犯人の手がかりに。
You can find who he's chatting with, that's a clue. But Shinjo balled his hands into fists.
もちろんサイバー犯罪対策課に調べさせたよ。
Of course, I had cybercrimes look into it. No dice.
そ
It's
の
always
結
no
果
dice. What
ア
they
ミー
found
ちゃんは
was
存在しなかった。
Amy didn't exist.
は
What?
どういうことですか？
What do you mean didn't exist? There is not found. There is not the account does not exist.
アミーちゃんの正体も伊藤君だったんだ。彼は一人でチャットもどきをしていた。
Amy was also Ito. He was talking to himself. Well, there can't be two mind controllers. We haven't seen two of them. That wouldn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. There can't be two people mind controlling him. There can't be two people mind controlling him. That doesn't make sense.
そんなバカな。
That kind of defeats your idea of him being mind controlled, actually. Because the odds that two people have the exact same power when we've never run into anyone with duplicate powers is pretty questionable. It's impossible. Where's Arimura, the living lie detector? Get her to, like, validate this shit. Why?
これは久野里さんの説だが、伊藤君の心は長期にわたる思考誘導のせいですでに壊れていたんじゃないかと。
This is Kunothada's theory, but she thinks that Ito's mind had already been destroyed by being subject to mind control over an extended period of time.
だが法廷で思考誘導という能力の存在が認められない以上、非常にまずい証拠になる。
Since mind control
犯
won't be
人しか知
recognized
り
in
得な
a
い
court
情
of
報が
law,
含まれているんだ。
it's extremely damaging evidence to him. It includes information only the killer could know. Yep. No, it can't be two mind controllers. The issue is, if he's talking to himself, then you have to assume that there's two people mind controlling him. Because Shinji isn't the killer. If he's not the killer, then he's not the one participating in this chat log. Because otherwise he'd be like saying something to Takuru, right? So that means either he is one of those people, or there are two people mind controlling him, or one of them is like sneaking into his house and typing on his machine. Maybe that one. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but like if you have a conversation and they're both the same person, then he has to be one of them, or there has to be two people like taking turns puppeting him to do that. Or like I said, someone goes into his house and uses the other user, leaves it as a message for the guy. Which is possible, but like... Then you have to think, okay, there's a pyromaniac, there's the actual killer, there's another killer. Like, we're just adding people. Like, we're just adding people to this loop of like a potentially infinite number of people using mind control or something. Like, they could have snuck all the evidence onto Shinji stuff to make him look like a scapegoat, but like... Like, are they really gonna forge internet IM chat logs? You can't really do that, right? Like, those have timestamps, and presumably those aren't gonna be forged, so you had to have, like, already planned this, like... a year, like 2 months in advance that he'd be caught. A new rage was building up within me. Whoever did that to you, he'd also put Ito's mind under so much stress it had shattered. Yeah, damn. That's rough. I kicked a small rock at my feet. The rock collided with the nearby wall and split in two.
新庄さん、このままだと伊藤はどうなるんですか？その法律的に。
Shinjo, what's gonna happen to Ito at this rate? I mean,
まだわから
legally.
ない。未成年とはいえ、事件が事件だけに
He's a minor. Yeah, I don't know. He's a minor, but given what he's accused of.
でも真犯人が逮捕されれば別ですよね。そうすれば伊藤の罪だって軽く。
Look, I got good news for Takuru. I mean, this is like super morbid, but it's good news. Technically, there's supposed to be one more murder. Right? There's one more. And if there is one more murder, I think there's supposed to be one murder, right? The 30th? Or some shit? I think there's supposed to be one more murder. And if there's one more murder, that means whoever gets killed while Shinji is in jail or is proving that Shinji is innocent. Unless the killer stops now. Now, mind you, Takuru might be the person killed. Which he should probably be thinking of. If, like, the person specifically targeting him, which is kind of weird, but maybe we go under that. Maybe we need to look under this up if they're trying to mess with him specifically. Although it seems unlikely. They seem to be targeting random psychics and they just happen to use the Senri deal. The next psychic who dies... Yeah, the biggest brain move is to just have him be in a coma or in jail the whole time. Then the next murder occurs. He's not going to be the victim because he's not a psychic. The next murder occurs and he's like, "Wasn't me. Sorry, guys." Like, it's a little bit morbid, but that's a way they could get off. So why don't you say that to Takuru? Say like, well, keep him in jail for a week. If the next murder occurs, he's not the killer. That's a good bet. Of course, that means you might kill someone, but like, I mean, it seems somewhat reasonable. You could like cast doubt on the veracity of him being the killer. If you're like, he didn't kill all those other people because there's people still dying. But then again, there's only one murder left, so could be a copycat killer. There could be, like, if he's arrested and charged publicly, someone might do a killing just to keep the pattern alive to make it look like he's not caught, which is not really something you want to see, but is possible. As copycat killers aren't entirely uncommon. Alright, they could listen the charges.
ダメだ。
No.
君は自分の身を守ることだ
Focus
け
on
考えろ。
protecting yourself. I'll find
犯
the
人な
killer.
ら俺が探す。
Ito must have realized what I was trying to say because he cut me off.
犯人を探すって一体どこをどう探すつもりなんですか。それに犯人が分かっても気軽マニアックス相手に新庄さんに何ができるんです。
And find him? Where are you gonna start looking? And if you do find him, what can you do against him? Very good question. How do you beat this mind control guy? Because if you find him, like, for all we know, it could be you. And he could just mind control you. Like, good question, Takuru. How do you beat this guy? He's got mind control. What are you gonna do? Do we have an answer?
これまで結局何もできてないじゃないですか。そんなだから言うや伊藤は。
That's why like a bajillion people are dead, but I mean, he's been trying. This wasn't fair. Oh yeah, he said you haven't been able to do anything so far. That's why you and Ito. It wasn't fair. I knew it wasn't fair, but I was so frustrated and angry I couldn't stop myself.
Takuru.
Takuru.
新庄さんは一生懸命やってくれてる。責めるのは違うわ。
Shinjo's doing his best for us. It's not fair to blame him. I looked at Shinjo's face, then looked away. He had the same pained look on his face we'd had a moment ago. I thought it said he'd had, but it said we'd had apparently. Sorry. I didn't mean...
いや、君の言う通りだ。俺は君たちにどう謝罪していいのか、
You're right,
未だにわからない。
still don't know how to apologize to you.
けれど、頼むから、命を危険にさらすような真似はしないでくれ。特に宮代君、11月4日に何かしようと考えているのなら、
Please, don't put your lives in danger. Miyashiro, you especially, if you're thinking about doing something on the 4th. Wait?
11月4日
November 4th?
ニュージェネレーションの狂気。最後の事件の日ですよね。
The day
となれば、
of the last New
その日の
Generation
真犯
Madness
人は
incident.
必ず動く。
The killer's going to do something on that day. Shinjo's expression became even more pained.
だから、宮代君。
That's why, Miyashiro. Wait, what day does it? Oh, it's way too long. I'm not gonna scroll up that
ダ
far.
メか。
No luck, huh? He must have seen how strong my resolve was, because he turned toward Karus.
クルスさん、
Karus?
はい。
Yes?
どうやら俺から頼んでも無駄らしい。宮代くんがおかしなことをしないよう見張っててくれないか。俺はこれ以上犠牲者を出したくない。
Looks like he's not gonna listen to me. Can you keep an eye on him and make sure he doesn't do anything? I don't want any more victims. To be fair, we were doing our best to do literally nothing for the last murder. Both of them, in fact. Went very poorly.
わかりました。
I understand.
11月4日が過ぎるまで、タクルには危険なことをさせないよう注意しておきます。
I'll watch Takuru until the end of the 4th. Make sure he doesn't do anything dangerous.
クルス。
Something seemed strange about what she'd said, so I turned to look. But she'd already bowed to Shinju and started walking towards Alba Dorm. Alright, time to read the latest on 2chan. On @chan, sorry. Latest victim chopped up and put into tiny boxes. Too much, even for me. So we've settled on fictional young girl. That's from the law Tokyo passed banning depictions of sex between fictional youths in anime and manga, right? Like 5 or 6 years ago. Does anyone even remember that? It's better than well done for a chick who got burnt to death. How about fictional underage girl? Makes it sound extra sexy. What? Little Yui, the underage girl, huh? Yui was an XXX grader, so much hotter than the guy from Gatsu on Death, or the crazy lady from Well Done. BRB bathroom. Why would you even post BRB bathroom on a text-based image board? Anyway, officer, there's a pervert in this thread. Look, it's like exactly this one. So hot, X-grid. Anyway, the killer's not supposed to get caught. What do we do on 11-4? Why don't you do it yourself? Go make fictional young girl too. Police have been notified. Underage girl. You guys play way too many H games. I feel like I need to tell that to chat sometimes. Damn. Ah, Takuru is back at his usual thing. He's a lurker, but he hates when people are wrong. Listen, man, you just need to post and tell them something. It's not hard. Those stupid assholes. I had to stop myself from smashing the newspaper club's computer monitor. Came very close to depriving Kazuki of her means of playing ESO too. Surika, Kazuki, and Arima were watching me in shock from the corner of the room. Fictional young girl? Fuck you. That's a pretty I'm gonna be honest, that's a pretty mediocre name. I feel like they could have come up with a better name for the murderer. Yui died like that. What the fuck are you doing playing around like the... Honestly, like, the other names were actually okay. Some of them were okay, although Gatsuan was kind of weird. Some of the names are okay. That one is actually just a terrible name for a murder. I don't know why they call it that. So what the fuck are you doing playing around like it's a game? Well, they're divorced from it. What do you want? Talk to that. Are you okay?
大丈夫?
Sarika's worried voice brought me back to reality. My hands were red from when I'd slammed them on the desk and they stung. They might swell up soon. Sorry, everyone. I glanced one last time at the @chan comments and closed the browser.
だから今朝警告したんですよ。
I warned you not to look at it for a while. You were warned. Yeah, what's in the box would be a better murder name. I think that would be a pretty good name for this. Referencing the scene from 7. But I don't know if Japan knows that, so I would have expected them to come up with an original name, but that fictional young girl doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, fictional shoujo? What? What about her is fictional? Oh, whatever.
Yeah. ネット上に何か情報がないか探してて。
I was looking for info on the net. I couldn't help myself. I should have never looked at that nest of self-proclaimed right-siders. I like how he thinks people who now know the truth are now like wrong-siders. His opinion is anyone who doesn't know the exact truth is a wrong-sider. It's kind of funny. He's being elitist to the people he thought were like the elite. Great. They were nothing but idiots being cleverly manipulated by paid professionals. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
They are generally a collection of idiots. I guess I used to be too. That's why they call oh yeah, I don't know what the new word for that is. Never mind, I'll just leave that alone. I was gonna make a comment and I'm like, I don't know the right word for that, so I don't know the PC word for that, so I'm not gonna say it. Alright. I guess I used to be too. I'd been one of them, at least until Revolving Dead. As I started to become part of the murders, I began to realize how irresponsible and sensitive the information disseminated on the internet was, and how awful real life could be. It was karma. Once I'd been proud of my status as a right-sider, but now the whole thing felt like a punishment. I mean, you aren't really correct. The thing about being a right-sider is you're supposed to be reading relevant and correct information, so if you're the only one in the world who knows it, and other people are only guessing, then all you're doing is making everyone else a wrong-sider. It's like, it should be, as a journalist, it's kind of your duty to, like, inform people of shit, instead of keeping all this secret information secret.
もう見ちゃったんなら言っときますけどね。
Since you've already
伊
seen it,
藤
I'll
先
tell
輩
you.
の個人情報も出ちゃってますよ。
Ito's
連
personal
続
info
殺
is
人
up
犯か
there,
どうかっ
too.
て話になってます。
They're talking about whether or not he's the killer. Yeah, Ito got doxxed, that's fine.
ほんの少し前は南沢千里のことで騒いでたくせに。
It was only a few days ago they were all convinced it was Senra Minamisawa. Seriously, man, like, it's a public image board. You can just be like, I'm XYZ AMA and see what happens. I mean, can you imagine? It can't be that hard. It can't be that hard. Like, you're on 2chan, it's an image board, all you need is timestamp. You need a picture and timestamp and be like, I'm X, ask me anything, and be like, I can't answer everything, but I'll try, and see how it goes. Like, not only would you get like 1 million hits, but like, come on, wouldn't that be a great way to set things right if you're like, I hate the name of this murder? Like, surely, if you're tilted, like if you're seriously tilted and want to set people straight, an AMA probably works. All you have to do is be like, I'm X, this is proof. You don't like it, fuck you, but he's like super tilted at, he's like tilted at all these wrong-siders, but doesn't want to prove them wrong. It's funny too, because if they probably have somewhere his photo too, right? Like him and Nono's. Like they should know that he's involved now, so in theory, knowing his name should be relevant. Oh well. Alright, a few days ago they were into his center, yeah. I stood and picked up the map we'd pulled off the wall. I put it back up on the board. タク?
どうするんです？
What are you going to do?
もう一度これまでの情報をチェックして見落としていることがないか調べてやる。
I'm gonna look at all the
そこに
information we
真犯
found
人
so
につな
far
がるヒントがあるかもしれない。
and make sure we didn't miss anything. There might be a clue to the real killer. Whoever did that to Yui, I wasn't letting them get away. I'd find them and then I'd
それならクルス先輩も呼んできましょうか。
Should we call Karus then?
いや、あいつは生徒会の仕事に専念するって言ってた。何でもいいから忙しく働いていたいって。
No, she said she wanted to focus on helping the student council. She just wanted to keep busy no matter what she said.
そうしてないと、ユイのことを思い出してしまうからって。
Otherwise, she remembers what happened to Yui.
そうですか。
For some reason, Arimura looked suspicious for a second. It would take a while for me to figure out what her expression meant at that time. I didn't really think much anything of it.
最初の事件、こっちみんなと、2番目の事件、オトモレタンについては僕は直接関わっていない。だから保留にしておくとして。
I wasn't personally involved in the first incident, Don't Look at Me, or the second leaky noise, so we can come back to those later. Exactly why I don't think it's related to it, but
3
we'll
番目
see.
の事件、回転デッド。ここからが本題だ。
We'll start with the third case, Revolving Dead.
私と初めて会ったのもこの時でし
That's
た
where you
ね。
met me, wasn't it? Let's see if they can remember how good his memory is.
あ
He has
あ、
the
で、あの事件で何か見落としがなかったかずっと考え
he
てたんだ
has
け
the
ど。
video. I don't know if Arimura's face is in the video, but if they have the video and go back through it, they might be able to prove that Arimura was mind controlled. Let's see if they do that. I've been wondering if there's anything we missed in Revolving
それ
Dead.
ほど重要じゃないと思って放っておいたことがあったんだ。覚えてないか、
Let's see.
尾上。
For something we hadn't talked about because we didn't think it was that important. Do you remember what it is, Onoe?
何？
Oh, what is it? The locked door suddenly opened. Police didn't stop us with uniforms in a love hotel. Why would there be a hidden camera in the love hotel room that shows the killer? Police didn't stop us with the uniforms in the hotel. We came in through the back. The locked door suddenly opened. Wasn't this our telekinesis? I'm gonna do this, but I It corrected me, so I'm wrong. Like, I'm wrong here, but I'm not sure what the right answer is. We went in through the back so they couldn't see us. Oh, the police weren't there. You know what? The police wasn't guarding the door, but the guy was unconscious. Let's try this.
そう、僕と尾上はラブホの中をこの制服で歩いてたんだ。
There was no one there.
普通なら補導され
There
る
was only two people there. One was at the front, and the other guy was unconscious. That's right, you and I were walking through the Love Hotel in our school uniforms. Normally they would have stopped us or taken us in, right?
うん。確かにそうですね。
That's right.
尾上がとっさにカップルのふりをしたからごまかしたと思ったけど、よく考えればやっぱり変だ。
I thought Inoue had fooled him by pretending we were a couple, but that doesn't make sense. Time to think of it.
敵砲の制服は目立つ。警官が気づかないはずないんだ。なのに僕らはそのままスルーされた。あの時違和感を覚えたんだよ。
Takio's uniforms stand out. There's no way a policeman wouldn't notice. But we were ignored. At the time, it felt strange.
タクは考えすぎだと思うけど。
I think you're overthinking things, Taki.
いや、今思えばあの警官、犯人に思考誘導されてたんじゃないだろうか。
Thinking back, that officer was probably mind controlled by the killer.
思考誘導？何のためにです？
Mind control? Why?
僕らを有村たちのいる殺人現場へ導くためとか。
To lead us to the murder scene where Arimura was. Why? They had to have already known we had telekinesis. That doesn't make sense. Unless they're specifically targeting us, that doesn't make sense. Because even we didn't know we had telekinesis. How would the killer know we had telekinesis and could open the door?
だから、
Lead us to the murder scene
な
where
ぜ
she
そん
was?
な必要が？
But why?
それはまだわからない。
I don't know. Let's
後
come
で
back.
もう一度考えてみる。
I mean, I would think the guy just chose not to do anything because he thought real killer wanted Takuru Miyashiro to see mercy. Interesting assumption, but why would he not do it for the first two? The goal was to show me a brutal murder scene and lead me to Arimura, then why?
その次の事件では、この学園でネット記者の渡部が殺された。
Next, the murder of Watabe, the internet journalist at our school.
この事件にも見逃しているポイントがある。あの時はそれほど不思議だと思ってなかったけど、よく考えるとなんかおかしい。
There's something else that seems strange here. I didn't think of it at the time, but it doesn't make sense looking back.
おかしいって何が？
What doesn't make
あの時、すでに渡部は有名なネット記者だった。それに比べて、こんなことは言いたくないけど、うちは有名でもなんでもない。ただの高校の新聞部だろ。
Watabe was a famous journalist. Compared to him, well, I hate to say it, but we're not famous at all. We're just a high school newspaper club.
なのに渡部の方から僕らとのディスカッションを申し込んできたんだ。
But Watabe wanted to interview us.
それって宮代先輩たちの方が力士シールについての情報が早くて、でネットでパクリだって騒がれた渡部さんが慌ててごまかしに来たんじゃないんですか？
Because he beat him to the punch with the sumo stickers, right? And there was that fuss about plagiarism, and he came to try and distract from that.
そうだったよね。
And who caused that? That was Kunosato.
ほらな、
See?
やっ
Doesn't
ぱり
make
変
sense.
だ。
I mean, Kunosato, I've already said, very suspicious, but it's
なんで？
fine. Why?
有村や尾上はそれほどヘビーなネットユーザーじゃないよな。
You guys aren't exactly heavy internet users, right?
ええ、ま
Yeah,
あ
I guess.
普通かな。
Not really?
そんな二人でさえ今みたいに思ったんだろう。渡部が自分のパクリをごまかしに来たって。
Even you two could tell the whole point was to distract from his plagiarism, right?
つまり
Okay.
僕らと対談なんかしても渡部の意図は見え見えで余計に炎上するだけだと思うんだ。メリットなんかどこにもないだろう。
In other words, what he was after was obvious and it would only make things worse. There was no real point, right?
ああ、確かに。
Right, right.
その程度のことネット記者としてやってきた渡部に計算できないはずがない。
Watabe is an internet journalist for a long time. There's no way he wouldn't know how transparent his thing was. Okay, maybe his ploy was. Someone as clever as him is capable of coming up with fresher information fast and changing the subject. The internet was always hungry for new things to talk about. Give them a few big scoops and they'd forget all about it.
じゃあどういうことなの、タク。
What are you trying to say, Tucky?
これは僕の考えなんだけど。
This is just my idea, but that's unlikely. He didn't try to pay us. Going to apologize for what he done? He wouldn't apologize this one. Watabe is mind controlled before the festival.
そう渡部自身すら気づいてなかったかもしれないけど僕らに対
This
談を
is
申し
why
込
adding mind control makes things a complete mess too. But this is why adding mind control makes everything a mess. You're like, was this person's decision or were they mind controlled? Was this person mind controlled? Was this person mind controlled? Was this person mind controlled? Anyone could be mind controlled at any time. Paranoia for days. Right, maybe he didn't realize this, but I think he was being mind controlled as well.
そしてみんなの注目を集めたところで殺された。
And when everyone was watching, he was killed.
でも宮代先輩、ラブホの件もそうですけど、やっぱり動機がわかりません。犯人は何がしたかったんです？
Yeah, sure, this is the same as the Love Hotel. I don't understand the motive. What did the killer want to do?
動機か。
Their motive, huh? Killing psychics seems to be a good motive. Arimura's right, though. What's the purpose of this? What's the point of making Watabe do that? What is their hidden
わ
goal?
かった。この事件についてもも
We're
う少し
apparently
考
thinking
えて
about it
み
a
る
bit。more. I put a note about Watabe up on the board.
ちなみに渡部の体内から出てきたシールはみんな偽物の力士シールだったことが分かってる。
By the way, we know that all the sumo stickers found in his body were fakes. Because we saw them and didn't have a reaction to them as stickers. That's a good point. Interesting. I don't know if the main character broke out of the underground facility and didn't save Sari. I don't know if Sari is a red herring or not. We keep going back to it as our protagonist trauma, but it's hard to tell if she's actually like the focal point or if it's just like specifically Ito's character is like on Sari. We have seen her show up an unnatural amount of times for a dead person though.
どうして本物を使わなかったのかな？
Why didn't they use real ones?
それは多分犯人も能力者だからだろう。
Probably because the killer's a psychic too, makes sense. The sumo stickers, aka the 11th Rorschach, had a terrible effect on the minds of psychics. Using real sumo stickers to kill Watabe would pose a serious risk to them as well.
犯行現
All
場
it
で
does
犯
is
人
make
自
you
身が誤って精神汚
paranoid
染を
though.
受けたりすれば僕や有村と同じように身動きが取れなくなってしまう。そうなったら逃げることができなくなるからな。
There's actually a problem with Arimura being mind controlled. So what's the motive for the kill? What stops the killer from like? What stops the mind controller from mind controlling you? If I hadn't thought about Arimura being mind controlled, I would have said like being psychic makes you resilient to mind control, but it seems like anyone can be mind controlled. Alright, if the killer had their mind affected like Arimura and I did, then they might have been frozen at the scene, they wouldn't have been able to escape. Yep.
確かにあのシールを見
But we
る
don't know
と
the range of
タ
this.
クひどいことになるもんね。
Yeah, you're always a mess when you see those stickers. But people react differently, right? The pyrokinetic just attacked us. Arimura and us ran in terror. But our character is known for running in terror and becoming a blubbering mess under like the lightest bit of pressure, so it's not really a surprise if we see something unnerving we run. Arimura nodded several times running. Like, I think you could be resilient to the stickers effect, or at least not be like completely put off if you'd seen it enough times before.
本当に嫌ですよね。
I really hate those things.
なんていうのか、悪夢みたいな妄想がどんどん心の中に広がってきて、そのうちそれが妄想なのか現実なのか分かんなくなって。
I really hate those things. It's like this nightmarish delusions just take over your mind, and eventually you stop being sure what's delusion and what's reality.
そうだな。あの夜のことを覚えてるか、有村。
That's right. Do you remember that night, Arimura?
あの夜
That night?
僕と有村がパイロキネシスト
When we were
ハイ
attacked
ダ
by the
リコに襲われ
pyrokinetic
た時
Rico
のこと
Haida?
だ。あの夜は尾上もいたよな。確かお前が僕のトレーラーハウスに来て。
Was the pyrokinetic's eyes red? I think they were, right? Were they red or blue? I wish we could look at a gallery. That'd be nice. I don't want to go back and do that. I feel like that's cheating. Alright, you were there too, I know. You came by my RV?
のんちゃんの話を聞いてあげてってお願いした時だよね。
That's when I asked you to go talk to Non, right?
でも私、タクにそれだけ伝えてうちに帰っちゃったからな。
Then I went
その後の
straight
こ
home
と
after
は
that. I don't know what happened then.
そうか。でも家への帰り道何かに気づかなかったか。
I see. Did you notice anything on your way home?
何かって？
What do you mean? There are suddenly more stickers around the parking city.
チャンネ
Oh, welcome back, Snow. How's it going, mine?
ル。確かに、なんかあっちこっちベタベタ貼ってあったね。
I remember those stickers were all over the place.
ああ、僕はクルスに会おうと思ってアーバ寮へ向かったんだ。
Yeah, I wanted to
とこ
see
ろが
Carouse, so I headed
公
to
園や
Alvador.
街中の歴史シールの数がいきなり増えてた。
But there were sumo stickers all over the park and city. They also led you to a specific place. Yeah, weird eyes. I mean, the chick has half her face melted. And one of her eyes looks just naturally weird. I don't know if she counts as being mind controlled at all times, but she definitely seems to have it in for us. I thought her eyes were red too. Because I was like, how do you miss red eyes and pink hair? Alright. Someone in the medical profession older? Dad being sus? I don't know about the dad being sus. I don't think the dad's that suspicious. I don't know about the dad being suspicious. He's not really enough of a character and doesn't seem to have a strong motive. Like, if he wanted us or psychics in general dead, wouldn't he just kill us? Because, like, we literally spent like 10 years with him? Or like 6 years with him? Like, surely he had an opportunity to murder us or torture us in those 6 years. Like, you have way more opportunities to do whatever you want than this. This seems like the most pointless, convoluted plan for the dad to go through. Alright, you wanted to go see Caruso, you head to Albadorm, but there were sumo stickers all over the park and the city.
しかも本物のシール。
And they're real
11
ones,
番
the
目のロール
11th
シャッファ
Rorschach.
ー。
Yeah.
そのせいで僕は精神を完全に侵食されそうになった。
They almost completely took over my mind. They also led you and Arimura to the same place. Arimura seemed to remember what happened last night, gave a little scream and hugged herself tight.
あの時期はいろんなテレビ番組やネットで力士シールが話題になってたん
TV
です
news
よ。
and internet, they were all talking about sumo stickers then.
そのせいでどんな恐ろしいものか知らないバカな連中が面白がって張りまくってたんです。迷惑な話です。
That's an interesting assumption, but the fact that you both ended up in the same place in a city as big as Tokyo is peculiar. So some idiots who didn't know what they They went and stuck them up everywhere for fun, those bastards.
いや、よく考えてみると、
No.
ネットやテレビのせいじゃないような気がするんだ。
When I think about it, I don't think you can blame internet or TV. Yeah, people don't randomly... When people are like, oh, that's a curious sticker, they don't put it up all over the walls.
どういうこと？
What do you mean? I faced the rest of the group and chose the words carefully as I tried to figure out this for myself.
あの夜もそうだけど、僕はネットニュースやテレビが力士シールを話題にするたびにずっとチェックをしてきた。
When a story about the sumo stickers showed up on the internet or TV, I'd go look at it.
でもニュースで扱っているのはどれも偽のシールばかりだったんだ。
All the stickers on the news were
力士シ
fakes.
ール。
Very few were the
11番目
actual
のロール
11th
社博士
Rorschach.
はほとんど出たことがない。
Like it shouldn't be people.
つまりテレビやネットのシールを真似て喜んでいるような連中は実は本物がどんなデザインなのか知らないんだよ。
This means if they were just copying what they saw on TV, they wouldn't know what the real design looked like.
そんな連中の作ったシールなんていくら大量に貼ってあっても怖くもなん
They
とも
could
ない
make
だ
a
ろ。
million stickers and it wouldn't bother us,
じゃあ
right?
どうしてあの夜は？
Why were there so many that night then? Someone set them up. Why did two random people who were being pushed by the stickers end up in the same place? Like, there's no way that happens by coincidence.
おそらく真犯人がやったん
It
だ。
was probably the real
自分
killer.
が精神汚染されるかもしれないのに
They
その
put
リスク
real
を冒して
stickers
ま
up,
で
knowing
本
the
物のシー
effect.
ルを貼って回った。
Yep.
その目的はおそらく
Their goal was probably lead us to the pyrokinetic. She's already awakened. It's either completely awakened. Ooh, it's one of these two. I don't know. It's not the kill. It's the pyrokinetic or the pain. Like our full awakening. What if I click awakening? Let's see. It's probably to meet the pyrokinetic, right? I just want to see what happens if we do that. Okay. Is this what... the text afterwards actually specifically said we'd fully awoken from it. They were testing if we'd awoken, but yeah, lead us to the pyromaniac.
あの
Okay.
夜僕らはひたすらシールから
We
逃
ran
げ
to
回
the
って
stickers and it caught her too. Yep. We ran from the stickers that
行
night
き着いた先に
right into
あ
Riko
の
Haida.
ハイダリコって人が現れた。
So she was also being pushed by the stickers. Yes.
そうですね。
That makes sense. Right into Riko Haida, that's right.
つまり犯人はシールを使ってハイダリコが待ち受けている場所へ僕らを誘導したんだ。
The killer led us to where Riko Haida was waiting.
そしてハイダリコは僕らを襲ってきた。
And Riko attacked us.
でも考えてみるとあの人も伊藤先輩と同じ
But
だっ
her
たんで
eyes
すね。
were red, right?
思考を操られて犯人役をやらされただけ。
When you think about it, she was no different than Ito being mind controlled into attacking someone.
かわいそうだね。
I feel bad for her, yeah. She got mind controlled into attacking someone and then murdered in a pretty painful way. Kinda sucks.
ああ
Yeah.
僕らは真犯人に完全にはめられて彼女を南沢千里だと思い込んでしまった。
The real killer manipulated us into thinking she was Senri Minamisawa. They even went through the trouble of preparing fake evidence. Yep.
証拠か。僕たちがハイダリコを南沢千里だと完全に信じ込んでしまったのは
That Riko was Senri? It's this one, the ID card. Yep. I'm on
南
board
沢
with this
千
so
里
far.
の ID カード。
Senri
俺は
Minamisawa's
完
ID
全に
card.
騙された。
That completely fooled us.
でもなんで彼女があのカードを持ってたんでしょうね。
Why? Why did she have that card?
その理由が全くわからない。完全に謎のままだ。
No idea, it's a complete mystery. Where did Riko Haida get it?
思うんですけどやっぱり本物の南沢千里が生きててハイダリコに罪をかぶせようとしたんじゃ。
An idea. The real Senri Minamisawa is alive and trying to pin the blame on Riko?
でもクルスはそんなことありえないってずっと言ってる。
Bruce said it's impossible though.
クルス先輩は南沢千里をかばってるだけだと思います。下手をすれば共犯かもしれませんよ。
I think she's trying to protect her. It's possible she's working with her.
お前、言っていいことと悪いことがあるぞ。
There are some things you shouldn't say. There are some things you need to consider even if they should be impossible. Come on. I almost screamed at Arimura. Was she trying to tell me Karus worked with the killer to do that to Yui? Katsuki grabbed my shirt and stopped me. Ah, there we go. Hannah's calming words. She shook her head as if telling me to calm down. Taku, don't get back. You're scaring me.
Worry.
Sorry, Arimura.
有村も
I owe you an apology, too.
すまなかった。
Listen, you can accuse anyone of working with the killer because they could be mind controlling her. Sorry, Arimura. I owe you an apology, too.
いえ、こっちこそ軽はずみでした。
I'm sorry. I was careless of me.
でも、宮代先輩、疑うのであれば全てを疑ってみるべきです。以前、クルス先輩が私の前で嘘をついたの覚えてますよね。
But Miyashiro, if you're going to suspect someone, you should suspect everyone. You already remember Karus lied in front of me once, right? And she lied specifically about the death. She was right. She thought she's dead, but Karus had insisted Senri Minamisawa was dead, but she hadn't actually seen her
も
die.
ちろん、私やセリ、花も例外じゃないですよ。
And this goes for me, Sari, and Hana. Thank you, Arimura, for pointing that out. If you're gonna suspect basically everybody in the case of being mind controlled, you have to suspect all your allies, because already one of them was already provably compromised.
そんなこと言い出したら誰も信用で
That
きない
means
じ
I
ゃない
can't
か。
trust anybody. It
伊
might.
藤先輩の事件を考えれば、そのくらい用心した方がいい。
After what happened with
Do you
Ito,
understand?
that's probably a good idea. Yeah.
私、結構好きだったんですよ、伊藤先輩。もちろんラブとかじゃないですけど、あんなに言葉がまっすぐで、裏表がなくて。
I liked Ito a lot. Of course, I wasn't in love with him or anything, but he was always so honest.
たとえ嘘をついてもバレバレで、その嘘だって誰かを傷つけるような悪い嘘じゃなかったし、すごくいい人だなって感じてました。
Even if he lied, it was always so obvious. His lies were never the kind that hurt people. He was a really good person, so...
だから今初めて思ってます。
For the first time, I'm wishing I used my power better.
もっとちゃんと使えばよかったって。
Instead of just flexing on Ito, lying about what he likes.
有村。
Arima,
ひなちゃん。
how are you not using your power well?
これまで私ずっと後悔してたんです。こんな能力が欲しいなんて思ってしまったこと。結局人の言葉の裏表なんて知らない方が幸せだったから。
Until now, I'd always regretted wanting this power. I always thought it was better not to know the truth behind people's words.
でも
But now,
今はもっと後悔し
I
てま
regret
す。
it even more.
私が能力をちゃんと活かしていれば、多分
If I'd used it better,
伊藤先輩の言葉がどこかおかしいことに気づくことができたはずです。
something is wrong with
そうしたら
what Ito was saying.
ゆいさんだってあんなことには。
Could have saved Yui. Could you have? You weren't even interacting with him on the last day. Armor's eyes looked so sad.
いや、違う。
It's not
有村のせいじゃない。
No, I think she's pretty safe. I sighed a little and moved away from the map.
そろそろ昼休みも終わりだ。このくらいにしとこう。
Lunch is almost over. That's enough.
あと、しばらく新聞部の活動は休止にする。和久井先生にそう言われてるし、放課後も集まらなくていいから。
We're shutting down the club for a while. Wakui told us we had to. You don't need to come here after school.
そっか。
It's,
仕方ないですね。
Guess we don't have a choice. It's off to the literature club.
あ、
Last
で
year
も
didn't actually
和
say
樹は
that.
別に演奏とかプレイしに来ても構わないからな。部室の鍵はいつでも開けとく。
Kazuki can come play ESO too if she wants. I'll leave the door unlocked. Alright. I forced myself to smile, but Kazuki softly lowered her eyes as if to say no. The sun set early in late autumn. Just like I'd said over lunch, there was no club meeting that day. I had a short conversation with Sarika and headed straight for Albador. Even so, it was starting to get dark, and it was easy to imagine some hidden attacker lurking in the shadows. But there was more than just fear inside me now. Of course, I was afraid of the murderer. I was afraid of being killed in some horrible way and dying in incredible pain. But I could also feel a black rage rearing its ugly head inside me. You're gonna pay for what you did to you. Where the fuck you are, I'll find you and I'll tear you to tiny, bloody little shreds. Those feelings grew inside me with each passing moment.
Oh, 君、宮代拓君だね。悪いけど、ちょっと話を聞かせてくれないかな。
You're Takuru Mishiro, right? Can we talk to you for a minute?
君が第一発見者なんだよね。最初に見たとき、どんな気持ちだった？
You were the first to find the body, right? What was it like? Media was still camped outside around Albador. Actually, because of what happened with Yui, there were more of them than ever. And now that we were victims in their minds, that made them our self-appointed heroic defenders. They'd gotten even bolder. And you've gotten even less useful for them. Because you're fucking useless, man. He's no interview Takuru. Holy shit, man.
犯人は君の親友だって噂だけど、本当なの？すごいショックだよね。どうやって謝罪してほしい？
It was your best friend who was the killer, is that right? You must be shocked, aren't you? How do you want him to apologize to you?
友達はなんでこんなことをしたと思う？何か悩んでいたとか、心当たりはないかな？
Why do you think your best friend did this? Was there something bothering him?
うるさい。お前ら全員ユイと同じにしてやろうか。
Shut up. You want me to do the same thing to you as he did to her? Several of the lights the reporters were holding shattered at the same time. Suddenly, I came to my senses, shocked at the strong impulse I'd felt and the eerie light the D-sword was giving off.
今日はまだ11月2日。問題の日は明後日だ。それまでは大丈夫。何も起こらない。何も。
Today's still only the 2nd. Nothing happens until the 4th. Nothing. I pushed away my way past the media and ran inside the door, repeating the words as if they were a magic spell.
ただいま。
I'm back. I tried to calm myself down and act like nothing had happened. If Yudo heard yelling, it would wake him up.
おかえりなさい。タクルさん。
Welcome back, Takuru. I could see tiny little Uki from the kitchen. We weren't used to calling each other by our first names. Still.
晩ご飯もうすぐできますから。
Dinner's almost done.
ありがとう。
Thanks. None of us, including Dad, really wanted to eat anything, but she made dinner every night anyway. That was her own way of struggling against the sadness, I thought.
父さんとクルスは？
Where are Dad and Kurus?
先生は警察です。ユイさんのことで。
The doctor's at the police. It's about Yui.
そっか。
I see.
ののさんは診察室でユウトくんの看病を。
Nono was taking care of Yuto in the exam room.
うん。
Oh. Hey, Yuki?
なあ、ウキ。
はい。
Yes?
今日はまだいいけど、あさって11月4日はそうやって一人になっちゃ絶対にダメだ。みんなと一緒にいること。あと、誰に誘われても絶対に外へ出ないこと。
It's okay for today, but 2 days from now, on the 4th, make sure you're not alone at any point in time. Stay with everyone, don't go outside, no matter who tells you to. Got it?
それはタクルさんでもですか？
Does that include you, Takuru?
ああ、そうだ。誰も信用しちゃダメだ。
That's right. Trust no one. I remember what Arimura had said, my heart ached a little. Yuki mumbled to herself for a moment, seemingly considering my words, then she nodded.
ちょっとユウトの様子を見てくる。
I'll go take a look at Yudo.
じゃあ、ののさんにもご飯だって伝えてください。ユウトくんのお世話は私が交代しますから。
Please tell Nono that dinner's ready too. I'll take care of Yudo.
わかった。
Got it. I left the dining room and quietly went down the stairs to the clinic. When I opened the door, Yuto was lying on the bed and looked up at the ceiling. He was showing more emotion than he had been right after it happened, and he would answer when you spoke to him now. But he was being given strong psychotropics and spent most of his time asleep or barely alert. Yuta?
ああ、おかえりなさい。
Oh, welcome.
どうだ具合は。
How are you doing?
うん、よくなったよ。もう平気。
Better. I'm fine now. He forced himself to smile, probably because he didn't want to worry me, but the muscles that controlled his face weren't working the way he wanted yet. It looked more like he was about to cry.
クルスは
Where's Cruz? I looked around and didn't see her near the bed.
あっち。今眠ってるから、そっとしておいてあげて。
She's over there asleep. Leave her alone. I found her at the desk where Dad kept his work computer. She was face down on the desk with her long hair covering the top half of her body. Her breathing was gentle and rhythmic. The computer was still on. She must have fallen asleep while working on it.
のの姉ちゃん、あんまり寝てないみたいなんだ。僕の世話だけじゃなくて、生徒会のお仕事とかいっぱいあるみたいで、ずっとパソコンに向かってるし。
Nono hasn't been sleeping much. She's been helping me. She's also doing her student council work too. She's always sitting at the computer.
僕ならもう大丈
Told her
夫
I'm
って
fine
言
now,
っ
but
て
she
る
won't
のに。
listen.
大丈夫かどうか診断するのは父さんだろ。
It's Dad's job to tell you when you're fine.
そうだけど。
That's true.
お前はあんまり難しいこと考えるなよ。早く
Got
元
a
気にな
doctor
れ
on
って。
call. Come on, man. Don't worry about this stuff too much. Just focus on getting better. Neither of us would bring up Yui. We'd probably have to wait until Yuto was a lot more grown up. I tapped him on the shoulder and grabbed the blanket off the other bed, softly walking over to Cruz. Even with the heater on, I figured she might catch cold if she slept in a place like this. The dreaded anime cold. Yeah, best not to get that on the 2nd, 2 days before the 4th. But I fell silent when I saw what was on the computer screen. It was displaying several sites that dealt with the return of the new generation madness. And at the very front was the video from Don't Look at Me. It was paused at the moment when the victim realized he'd sliced up his own arm and passed out in a pool of blood, tears, and drool. There was a newly bought notebook next to her filled with words in her pretty handwriting. Some of it was names, locations, and times overlapped with what we had on the map on the club room wall, but Carissa had several sharp insights of her own. For example, Incident 2. Why didn't the victim put on makeup for her last street performance? The mind controller is male? He didn't consider a girl would need to put on makeup? Nice, nice. That's a nice detail that wasn't specified anywhere. Senri's ID card. No one but me knew I had buried it under the memorial in remembrance of her. The killer had to read my mind to dig it up. The killers can read minds? Oh, look. She's just as good at telling the truth as we are. Senri's ID card is buried under the memorial in remembrance. The killer had to read your mind and can read minds. Good to know. This means there are 2 killers, one who can read mind and one who control mind. Supports Takuru's multiple killers theory. There was page after page of it. You're amazed she put it together in such a short time, but why? You should be embarrassed. She's thought of more details than you. She must have sensed I was staring at her because she moved a little. Her almond eyes slowly opened and she blinked several times. Then she raised her head and looked at me.
ああ、なんだ、タクルか。おかえりなさい。
Oh, it's you, Takuru. Welcome back.
ただいま。ほら、毛布。風邪ひくぞ。
I'm home. Here, have a blanket. You'll catch cold.
やだ、私居眠りしちゃってたのね。
Did I fall asleep?
ありが。
Then she seemed to realize her mistake. She quickly reached at her hand to turn off the computer monitor. I grabbed it. ね、タクル。 Takuru, this is. I'm not lying. I swear. I refused to let go of her hand.
一体何なの、タクル。
What are you doing, Takuru?
それはこっちのセリフだ。
That's what I want to know.
さっきのあれが生徒会の仕事だっていうのか。
Don't tell me, you're doing this for the student council, right? Cruz flinched a little. Dude, this was the exact opposite of how things usually went between us. It was usually me who did the flinching.
そうだけど
It is. It's for the student council, guys. That's you gave me a note, and that's what I'm taking it.
そんなわけあるかよ。
I'd be like, okay, sure, student council, let's go with that. But he's like hell it is.
い
Confrontation
いいから
immediately. You're hurting
い
me.
い加
Let me
減
go.
手離して
I'm hurting your feelings, baby. Did you know that when people feel emotional pain, they actually feel more physical pain from injuries? I just thought I'd share that. Useful to know, I guess. But yes, the feelings of physical pain are amplified when you're also feeling emotional pain. Anyway, hurting me, let me go. So technically, if someone's incredibly embarrassed or as long as she's feeling a strong negative opinion, he might actually hurt her more than it would normally hurt her. As long as she's feeling strongly negative emotions. I kept holding on and glaring at her a little. At first she squirmed a little. Eventually her naturally strong will won out, and she glared right back at me. I need to look at that notebook. I don't know how long we stayed like that, but surprisingly it was Karus who gave up first. She silently put her other hand on top of mine.
ごめんなさいだから話して
I'm sorry, so let me go. I relaxed my grip a little and shook her hand away.
なんで一人であんなことしてんだよ。
Why are you doing this on your own?
まさか自分一人だけで真犯人を探そうなんて思ってないよな。誰も巻き込まないようにとか。
Yeah, you're not thinking of finding the killer on your own, are you? And trying to keep the rest of us out of it? Again, what are you going to do? The one thing we haven't been able to verify is whether he can mind control more than one person at a time. The best thing to do is to be in groups of 2 or 3. Until you can verify that the killer can control multiple people. You shouldn't operate on that assumption, because his main thing has been one person at a time a lot of the time.
それは
僕が同じようなことをしたら怒るくせに自分はいいのかよ。
You get mad if I do it, but you're allowed to? I'd be tilted too, I appreciate that.
いいのかよ。
Are you allowed to?
もしも犯人に目をつけられてユイみたいにされたらどうするんだ。
What if the killer comes after you and you end up like Yui? What if the killer just mind controls you because you're off on your own trying to attack them?
そんなの
I don't want that to happen.
冗談じゃない。
I added a line there.
タクル
Takuru. Bruce fell silent for a second after I spat out the words. Then she started to talk hesitantly as if she was uncertain of how to say what she was thinking.
前にタクルが言ってたでしょ事件が自分のことを追いかけてきてるみたいだって
Remember what you said before? Like the case was following you now?
ああ、
Yeah.
私もそうなの
It's the same for me.
この事件に千里が関わってるって知った時から私はいつも彼女に追われてる
Ever since I learned Senri was involved, she's been following me.
Huh?
What? Senri? Minami-sa? What does she mean? She was following her. Didn't she say she died in the Shibuya earthquake? That was a lie, and Senri was not only me, but Karus? You must have sensed my confusion, because Karus shook her head.
千里は地震で死んだわそれは間違いない私を追いかけてくるのはなんて言ったらいいのかな彼女の亡霊なの
What's chasing me is Senri died in the earthquake. I know that for a fact. What's chasing me is her ghost? I don't know how to describe it. My mouth hung open as I struggled to understand what she said. I never imagined she'd use an unscientific word like ghost.
なんだよそれ。
Would you prefer specter?
意味がわからない。
But like being pursued by the ghost of something isn't completely unreasonable. That's a pretty common turn of phrase. What are you talking about? I don't understand.
ごめんなさい。今はまだこれしか言えないの。
I'm sorry, this is all I can
話す
say
勇
right
気
now.
が
I don't have the courage to
出
tell
な
you.
いから。
Her face twisted in sorrow.
そうか。
I see. Still can't tell me
クルス
things.
にはまだたくさん僕に言えないことがあるんだな。
There's a lot of things you can't tell me, huh? By the time I realized what I'd said, it was too late. The pain in my heart had come back and the words had slipped out of my mouth. Even after I'd sworn I was never gonna say those words to her ever again. Dude, like, she fucking deserves it. Come on, man. Though you may not want to use it now. I don't know. I wouldn't be completely opposed to him saying that line. Kinda makes sense. Just like I expected, she looked sadder.
クルス、違うんだ。
Chris,
今
no,
の
that
は
wasn't
本
what
心じゃない。
I meant.
けど
But
前にも言っただろ。今の僕はもう昔とは違
I
うって。
told you before, right? I'm different than who I used to be.
それに僕はちゃんと今、
I'm
こ
here in
こにいるじゃ
Alba,
ないか。
right? If I was getting
ま
mad
だ
or
怒って
upset,
た
I
り
wouldn't come
嫌っ
back.
てたりしたら戻ってくるはずがない。
I mean, you're kind of here because Yui's dead, not because... And because, like, you're terrified you might get mind controlled? Kind of. Bruce sat down on the bed, exhausted. I suddenly realized Yuto had left. It was dinner time after all, and he'd probably thought the two of us wanted to be alone. There was a long, long silence after that. Neither Karus nor I said a word. We just stared at different spots in the room. And eventually, she started to talk.
いつか
Someday. What?
いつかタクルにだけは私が言えないでいること何もかも全部話したいと思ってる。
Well, we know she's not
そのせ
psychic,
いで
so there's
また
that.
嫌われちゃうかもしれないけどそれでも構わない。
Someday I want to tell you all the things that I can't say. It may make you hate me again, but I don't care.
その時はちゃんと最後まで聞いてくれる？
When that happens, will you let me say everything I need to?
あ、
Yeah,
ありがとう。
thanks. And finally, she smiled. It was a weak smile. It looked as though it could fade at any second.
ねえタクル
Taku?
覚えてる？地震の後昏睡から目を覚ました日のこと。
You remember the day you woke up after the earthquake?
あの時は頭がぼーっとしててあんまり。
I was really out of it, not really.
でも
That's fair.
最初に見たのがクルスの泣き顔だったことだけははっきり覚えてるよ。
I remember the first thing I saw was you crying. That's a weird thing to see, open your eyes to when you've
今
never
考
met.
えると不思議だな。
Thinking back, it's
お
kind
前
of
なん
strange.
で泣いてたんだ？
Why were you crying?
嬉しかったからよ目を覚ましてくれて。
I was happy you woke up. But why would you be happy that a stranger woke up, and why would you be in the room with them?
どうしてあの時の僕とクルスは
Thank you, good
そ
question.
のまだ赤の他人だったの？
Why? Back then, you and I were still, well, strangers.
タクルはそうだったかもしれないけど私はタクルのことを1年以上ずっと面倒見てきたのよ。
Maybe that was true for you, but I'd
私
taken
にと
care
って
of you
は
for over a year.
大切な家族の一員になってたもの。
Ah, I see. The fragile smile was still on her face.
だからお姉ちゃんはタクルのことなら何でも知ってるのよ。
I know everything there is to know
恥ず
about
か
you.
しくて他の女の子には言えないようなことまで全
Even
部
the
ね。
stuff you're too embarrassed to tell the other girls.
やめろよ。そういうことを言うのはなしって約束だろ。
そうだったわね。ご
You're
めん、
right. Sorry.
もう言わない。
I won't do it again. And then there was another silence, as if the two of us were trapped by memories of the past and had forgotten that time even existed. Oh, it's okay. Excuse me? And then time started moving again.
そっか、晩ご飯
We
ほ
missed
ったらかしだった。
Sorry.
悪い。
Yeah, missing dinner.
いえ、すぐに温め直しますから。
I'll warm it up again.
ごめんね、ウキちゃん。
I swear, like, half the women in this story, we have Yui, or Yui, rest in peace, Nono, who are like, both like, they're like 14 and are like your mother. Uki's like your grandmother. Like, half of them are like acting like 5 times their age. Easily. Sorry, Uki. Uki may or may not have been able to tell what was going on between us, but she left through the upstairs door without another word.
Takuru, 先に行ってて。
Takuru, go on ahead.
わかった。
Sure. Oh, Cruz.
クルス、
As she got up for the bed and headed for the dorm, I called out to her.
何？
What? Her soft chestnut hair flew upwards as she spun around.
僕はさ、
I think it's time for a drink. As I looked into her beautifully colored eyes, I was finally able to say it.
もう家族の誰も失いたくないんだ。
I don't want to lose any more of my family. How long had it been since I called Kurus part of my family? Her eyes went wide for a moment, and then suddenly she started to cry. Takuru.
だから本当に頼む。やめてくれ。一人で犯人探しなんて危険なこと。もしもお前まであんなことに、ユイみたいなことになったら。
So really, don't do this. Don't try and find the killer on your own. If what happened to you, what happened to you, he happened to you. Of course, this is Japan. This is Japan. It's like sibling romance half the time.
あれ、情けないな。泣くなよ。
I'm not supposed to cry.
情けない。
I'm going to ignore that though, and this will just be a wholesome relationship. This is 100% wholesome. Fine.
わかった。
I won't.
もうしない。だからお願い。タクルも約束して。私を残して行ってしまわないって。
Promise me too, Tucker.
私
You
を
won't
置い
leave
て
me behind.
消えてしまわないって。
Yep, don't disappear and leave me behind. Yeah.
私耐えられない。
I
こ
can't
んな
take,
に悲しいの。
can't take all this sadness.
耐えきれない。
She probably didn't even know what she was doing. She ran up to me and buried her face in my chest. She wrapped her arms around me as if she refused to let me go. She cried for a long, long time, calling out Yui's name in a tiny voice.
クルス。
Until now, I'd been bothered by the idea of a family. I thought it was a heavy, annoying chain that kept me stuck in one place.
そうじゃなかった。
I was wrong. Dad, Yui, Yuto, Kus, even Uki now. All part of my family. It was only then that it really hit me that Yui was gone forever. And I held Kurus's frail body tight and cried like a baby for a long, long time. November 3rd. School was empty since it had closed for Culture Day. Of course, no one from the newspaper club was there, and the room was empty and quiet. I'd been there alone since lunchtime. I wasn't sure how many hours I'd been staring at the map, looking for a clue that pointed towards the real killer. I had until tonight, once it was past midnight, November 4th would be here. And then, the final return of the New Generation Madness murder could occur at any time. The killer was probably getting ready right now. Who was their last target? Was it me? Arimura? Uki? Someone I didn't know at all? Arimura already said she'd spend the night at Alba. I'd asked her to stay with Uki and the others at all times. With her power, we should be able to avoid a repeat of what happened to Yui. And I... I'm sorry, Chris. I'm such a liar. I'd find the killer and make sure they came after me, and then I'd take revenge for Yui. Good luck. Yesterday I spoke with Arimura and the others and gone over the things that didn't make sense. When we talked, there were a few things we'd left to come back to later. First, case 3, revolving dead. Why'd the policeman ignore us when he saw us inside the Love Hotel wearing uniforms? The answer was probably what I initially thought. The officer was mind-controlled. The only reason I could think of was the killer wanted me at the scene. But I couldn't figure out why. Why not think of it another way? What if I hadn't gone there? Why would that cause a problem for them? It's one of these two. Either the connection between stickers in the case, or the telekinesis. Person dying in front of us isn't relevant. Could we have seen this sticker case connection? Other people saw it. This one, though? Has to be about us, personally. It's true, it's where you met it. Arimura and Kunosato, and that's how... It's where you met Arimura and Kunosato, and how you learned you were a Gigalomaniac. Exactly. It wasn't through this case I learned I could use telekinesis. I should rethink... Really? Fuck. Okay. I got that wrong. What would happen if I hadn't gone to the Love Hotel? That's right. You wouldn't have noticed that... You'd taken that video without thinking about it, and after analyzing it 100 times, you found the sumo stickers. But Kunosato already found that out, and would have just picked another video. After analyzing it 100 times, you found the sticker. You'd found other stickers at other murder sites, yep. You made a video connecting the murders and uploaded it to the internet, yep. Because of that video, our newspaper club site got an incredible number of hits, yep. Yeah, that sounds completely ridiculous and self-centered. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Wait a second. The killer sent me to benefit the club? That's ridiculous. I frowned and crumbled up the paper where I'd written newspaper club site hits and threw it in the trash. Then I glared at the map again. I looked at the next note we'd marked to it. It's to get him in with Watabe, right? It's to get Watabe in a place where you know he's going to be. You don't know where Watabe lives, so you bring him somewhere public, right? You bring him somewhere public and then assassinate him. But Watabe in the 4th incident got on death. Real reason our site had gotten so many hits was Watabe had gotten involved. That's why he decided to hold an interview. But like I said yesterday, I couldn't figure out why. The interview would have done nothing but fuel the flame war. I guess Watabe had already been under control of the killer. That means the killer stood to gain from having us meet Watabe, yep. I think they wanted to know where Watabe was. If he wasn't being mind controlled, why would he want to meet us? Who stood to gain by having Watabe come to Hekiho? We did? That's right. The newspaper club is the only people who stand to gain of those three. Student council gets a little bit of prestige for having a famous reporter come to their place, but like, they probably interact with reporters here and there. Anyway, since it's like the only high school in the city apparently. You glanced at the paper you'd thrown in the trash that read newspaper club site hits. We were already kind of famous because of the video. The arrival of Watabe, famous reporter, only increased that. And then, just as discussion was about to start, Watabe had become the victim of the return of New Generation Madness. Talk about sensational. Like they're trying to make the club famous. But why? After that, the club got deeper and deeper into the case, and the case became more than something that we reported on. We went through things no high school newspaper club would ever experience and felt excitement, terror, and surprise. Just been toying with the newspaper club, but why? Part of it was the attack on me and Arimura by the pyrokinetic. Even then the killer showed signs of toying with us, right? They could have killed us and chose not to. It wasn't Senri. It was another woman named Riko Haida who attacked us. But the killer had Senri Minamisawa's ID. That was what had fooled us and almost sent the case in the wrong direction. But last night, I solved the mystery of the ID card, courtesy of reading someone's diary/notes. Because I'd seen this about Senri Minamisawa's ID card in Kurisa's notes. That's right. This is what it said in Carusa's notes. No one but me knew I buried it under the memorial in remembrance of her. The killer had to read my mind to dig it up, so the killer can read minds. It was safe to assume she was right. The killer had read her mind and took the ID from the memorial. Why'd the killer read her mind and get it, though? But why? Yeah, what was the reason for that? Why did the killer want to make it look like Senri was attacking us? What's the point? Tried to expose him and experience by making Senri experience. They tried to terrify me, bringing back past trauma. Tried to drive Ito, who loves Senri, into trauma. This is false. It's one of these two. But if they're trying to expose the experimentation, they wouldn't be killing people who would likely be victims. Felt like the killer was using Minami-sawa to take advantage of your trauma. In fact, you felt terrified many times because of that. But that means... I spoke aloud without realizing it. The killer isn't after the newspaper club, they're after me. Why are they after us, though? That's impossible. There's no way they could have committed these murders just to mess with me. It made no sense. It's far too elaborate. And for all the effort, there's something that didn't make sense about the incident with Ito and Yui. That is... That's a bad one. Revenge for a girl you once loved to pathetic PP motive? That's not a good one. From the order, Uki, not Yui, should have been the next target. We don't know how to how he picks targets in order. Although, Yui could have been the target because she's close to us. It makes no sense to turn Ito into a killer if motive is vengeance. He didn't know her. I can sort of say that. It's kind of hard to pick any of these. There's no point in making him the killer unless you want to cause us to suffer. If you want to cause us to suffer, this works. But he says that's right, there's no point in making Ito the killer. Yeah, making Ito is the wrong thing to do. The point's making it look like this was Senri's revenge. There are other people who would make way more sense. For example, Senri Minamisawa's best friends, Karus and Kawahara, would make way more sense. Yeah. If one of them committed the murder, the police never would have become suspicious at all. It's possible we might not have even figured out that mind control was involved. The whole thing would have ended with the assumption it was a plot to get revenge for an old friend. Why Ito then? Why Ito when he wasn't involved? Why did they make him tell lies that would be easily found out? What's the point? Yeah, it's like they're screaming Ito's a puppet. Exactly. It's so obvious, right? Ito's a puppet and the real killer is someone else. They're trying to... Oh, okay. I suddenly stood up from my chair. Let's see. Is that what they're after? The killer deliberately chose Ito, who had no motive to commit the crime. Of course, we realized that immediately and started looking even harder for the real killer. None of the cops except for Shinjo would believe in psychic powers. Adding the media's speculation, public confusion and interest would only grow. That's exactly what happened. More and more pundits and commentators arguing over whether Ito, who they always called Boy A, was really the killer. And of course, multiple threads showed up on 8chan, simultaneously declaring both his innocence and guilt. There were even threads speculating who the true killer might be, and they showed no signs of stopping. Tomorrow's the 4th. From midnight tonight to midnight tomorrow, the whole city would be waiting with bated breath to see the killer's next move. What if the killer planned all this? It was like they were challenging me to a game. They lured me in with the return of New Generation Madness, which they knew I'd taken interest in. They used Senri Minamisawa to drive me into a corner from which I couldn't escape. They were moving everyone around for their own ends, both wrong-siders and self-proclaimed right-siders, like chess pieces on a board. And they wanted me, the other player, to try and stop the last murder on November 4th. I put my hand to my forehead and stared at the map, unable to believe it. It's the only reason? They killed all those people for that? That's why they did that to you?
こんなの全部僕の
It's
妄想
delusion.
に
This
決まっ
has
て
to
る。
be my delusion. I could hear what I was whispering to myself.
そうさ。この犯行の裏にはもっとすごい陰謀があるに違いないんだ。
That's right. There has to be a greater conspiracy. A huge conspiracy.
壮大
Let's
で
shake the
緻
world
密
to
な
the
陰
core.
謀が。
We'd been caught up in this huge plan. That's why it was happening to us. There had to be. There had to be a conspiracy. Suddenly, I heard the sound of a ringing phone. I quickly look around for the source. It was my smartphone, which I kept inside my bag. I quickly pulled it out and looked at the screen. Nobody keeps their smartphone in their bag. Holy shit.
新庄さん。
Shinjo? Shinjo had been visiting Ito in the hospital every day since he was the one in charge of Yui's case. If he was calling, that meant... I forced myself to stay calm as I hit the answer button.
宮代君か？
Miyashiro?
はい。
Yes.
伊藤、目を覚ましたんですか？
Did Ito wake up?
ああ、2時間ほど前だ。
2 hours ago, yes.
2時間って。なんでもっと早く知らせてくれないんです？
2 hours? Why didn't you say sooner?
無茶を言わないでくれ。他の捜査員が病室を出ていくタイミングを待ってたんだ。こうして君に電話してること自体、処分者なんだからな。
Don't ask for the impossible. I was waiting for the other officers to leave the room. If they even caught me talking to you, I'd be punished.
伊藤は無事なんですね。
But what about Ito? Is he okay?
ああ、意識レベルは改善されてきた。話もできる。ただ、どうだ、久里さん。
He's a lot more alert. He can talk, but well, Kunosato? I could hear Kunosato's voice on the other end of the phone. You know it's bad when he's asking Kunosato to tell you something.
大脳新皮質だけでなく、海馬や言語中枢にもダメージを負っている。
There's
無理
damage,
させたら、その後のことは知らないぞ。
not only to his neocortex, but his hippocampus and language center too. I can't guarantee that damage won't be permanent if he pushes himself too hard.
という状態だ。それでも伊藤君がどうしても君と話したいと言ってる。
That's the situation. He says he wants to talk to you anyway, though.
はい。
Okay.
いいか、変わるぞ。
Ready? I'm putting him on.
はい。
I gulped down the saliva in my mouth. Suddenly, I felt a terrible uncertainty in my heart. What was I supposed to say to Ito? Even if he'd been mind-controlled, he was still the one who chopped up my little sister. I didn't hear any sound coming from the
伊
phone.
藤、
Ito? I heard the sound of a deep breath on the other side of the phone.
伊藤、大丈夫か？
Ito, are you okay? In the end, that was all I could say.
宮代、
Gee,
あ、僕だ。
it's me.
許して。許してくれ。
Forgive me. Forgive me, please.
何？
What?
俺はゆいちゃんのこと殺し。
I killed you.
いい。それ以上言わなくていい。
You don't need to say any more than that. I tried to cut him off, but he ignored me and started crying.
でもゆいちゃんはお前の大事な妹じゃないか。なのに俺がこの手でダメだ。俺が死んだくらいじゃこの罪は償えないだろ宮次郎。
If he was your sister, but I killed her. It's no good. Even if I killed myself, it wouldn't atone for this, would it, Miyashiro?
なんだよそれ。死ぬとか言うな。
What are you saying? Are you saying you're gonna die?
しっかりしろ、伊藤君。
Snap out of it, Ito. Shinjo's yells overlapped my words.
いいか。僕はお前がユイにあんなことをしたとは思ってない。本当の犯人は別にいる。
Listen, I don't think that you did that to Yui. Someone else is the real killer.
犯人
The real killer.
ああ、お前は無実なんだよ。
Yeah, you're innocent.
なんでもいい。思い
Just
出せ。
try and remember.
お前誰かに何かされたんだよな。
Someone
No.
did something to you, right? Right?
誰かに
Someone
何
did
か
something?
そうだ。お前に思考誘導をかけたやつは誰なんだ？
That's right. Who was the one mind controlling you? Oh. Suddenly, I heard him scream in pain on the other end of the
伊
phone.
藤、
どうした？おい、
Ito, what's wrong?
ストップだ。やめさせろ。脳波がおかしい。
Stop it. Make him stop. His brainwaves are abnormal. What?
思考誘導が残ってる。 情報を引き出せないようにしてあるぞ、これは。
His mind is still being controlled. It's been set up to keep us from getting information out of him. Oh, they leave permanent mind control. Interesting. What?
このままだと海馬をやられる。
At this moment, it will destroy his hippocampus.
聞こえたか？
At this rate, it will destroy his hippocampus. You hear that? We're done. I'm hanging up. Okay.
待ってくれ。
Wait, don't hang up.
電話切らないでくれ。
Ito screams, cut him off.
思い出せそうなんだ。もう少しで何か。
I can almost remember just a little more.
伊藤君。
Ito,
伊藤もういいやめろ
Ito, that's enough. Stop. Ito didn't stop. He was trying his best, enduring terrible pain to tell me something.
宮代。
Yashiro,
あれは確か。
it was in the club room. Yashiro,
物質だ。
it was in the club room?
物質
The club room?
いつだったかわからない。俺の他にもう一人。
I don't remember when. There was someone else with me.
ダメだ。もう
No,
よせ。
stop.
うるさい。
Shh.
まだ宮代と話してんだ。いるな。
Shut up. I'm still talking to Miyashiro. Don't hang up.
伊藤
Ito.
ゆいちゃんの仇が取れるならこんな頭どうなったっていい。
If I can avenge you, I don't care what happens to my mind. Even from here, I could sense his incredible determination.
聞いてるか宮代。
Are you listening, Miyashiro?
あ聞いてる
I'm listening. Yeah.
そいつとしばらく話してて、そしたらそうだ、いきなりスマホでお前の写真を見せてきたんだ。
I talked with them for a while, and then that's right. They showed me a picture of you on the phone.
僕の写真
A picture of me.
あれはどんな写真だったか。でも驚いたのは覚えてる。
I don't remember what the photo was, but I remember I was surprised.
なんで驚いたのか。そうだ、宮代が楽しそうにしてたんだ。青葉寮の人たちとあんな宮代初めて見たから。
I was surprised because you looked so happy. You were with the people from Albador. I'd never seen you like that. Was that a picture on their phone? Because there's only like 2 people who we know have that photo. One of them is Karus. One of them is our old phone. I mean, they unlocked our phone, but apparently that wasn't that. I don't know. Red herring for the fake phone app. Like, was the fake phone app a red herring? Maybe. I'm pretty sure they actually called, but still. I'm surprised you look so happy. You were people with Albador. I'd never seen you like that. That's a picture from Albador. What is he talking about? There's no photos like that.
それでそうだ。
That's right.
そいつは笑いながら指さしたんだよ。
That's right. I remember they laughed and pointed at someone.
この子を殺せって。
Kill this girl, they said. It was Yui. The killer had a picture of me and Yui together.
それで俺怖くなって逃げようとしたらいきなりドアからもう一人入ってきて。
I got scared and tried to run away, and then someone else opened the door and came in.
その二人がやめてくれ。何すんだよ。やめろ。
The two of them. Stop. What are you doing? Stop.
伊藤
Ito?
伊藤
おい、伊藤君。
Ito? His mind had finally reached its limits. There was one last scream of terror and then nothing. He didn't answer, no matter how many times I yelled his name. All I heard was meaningless mumbling. He didn't seem to know where he was or what he was doing anymore.
宮代君、残念だが、もう電話は。
Sure, I'm sorry. You can't talk anymore.
久野里さんに代わってください。
Give the phone to Kunosada.
え
What?
いいから早く。
Do it, hurry. A moment later, Kunosada answered the phone in a cold voice.
何か用か。
You need something?
お願いです。人を助けてください。
Please help Ito.
こいつに無理をさせたのはお前だろう。今さら何を言っている。
You're the one who made him talk. Why are you asking me for this now?
この事件が解決したら僕のこと実験台にしたっていいです。だからお願いします。
This is where he's going, alright. Once this is over, use me as a guinea pig for your experiments, please. I heard a mocking laughter in her voice.
今の言葉、確かに聞いたぞ。
Oh, I'm gonna take you seriously, you know.
やりたければ勝手にしてください。だから伊藤を。
Why does she think she has the magic power to save Ito when doctors don't? Interesting. Do whatever you want, just save Ito.
わかった。できるだけのことはしてみよう。
Fine, I'll do what I can.
過度の期待はするなよ。
Don't get your hopes up too much. Then she hung up the phone. No matter how many times I called back, she didn't answer. Maybe one of the police officers besides Shinjo had come into the room.
伊藤。
At the very end, he had endured terrible pain to give me that information. Thinking back, it was incredibly important. It was a winter evening, and there was cold sweat forming on my
伊
forehead.
藤に思考誘導をかけた犯人が伊藤と一緒にこの部室に。
The person controlling Ito's mind was once here in this room. I tried to drive my tired, exhausted mind to fit in this last piece of the puzzle.
そんなバカな。それじゃまるで真犯人が。
Can't be. That makes it sound like the real killer. Like the real killer was one of us. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it, but that was the hint Ito had given me, and if that hint was also...
犯人からのメッセージだとしたら。
That hint was also a message from the killer, yeah. Bit of a problem. The fact Ito had woken up right before the 4th, the fact he'd given me that information, it all seemed like part of the killer's next move.
そっちがその気ならこっちだってやってやる。
What you want, I'll play along. Even if it's just what you want, I'll find you. Ito's first hint. The killer was talking with Ito in private in the newspaper club room. It meant that someone was close enough for Ito to have a chat with.
しかも新聞部の部室にいてもおかしくない人
And
物。
that's someone who would belong in the newspaper club. By process of elimination, who would I rule out? Which of these people wouldn't I suspect? Wouldn't I suspect? Okay. I could definitely rule out Uki. There was the call. We suspected it's her, but now I knew Ito had done it all by himself. If she and Ito were working together, there's no need for her to install that app. He could have just had Uki make the call, so I could rule her out. Boop. Let's see. Probably not him. I could take Kawahara off the list. He was friends with Karus, but not that close to Ito. And because of Karus, he didn't like the newspaper club. It was hard to imagine the two of them talking in private here. Let's see. He could talk with Shinjo in private, but he's not newspaper club, right? It's probably safe to strip Shinjo off the list of suspects. They only met after I got the call. It was safe to rule him out. Let's see, not a newspaper club member. You'd only met Kunosada, that's right, after Ito faked the call. At that point we'd never met, which meant it didn't match Ito's evidence. Eliminate her. All these people are people you could, well... I think we could axe Arimura. Arimura wasn't part of the newspaper club, but she was known to come in here from time to time. She'd probably talk with Ito with her own once or twice. Too early to yeah. Okay. The game wants me to eliminate people. You could reel at Kazuki. Even when she's in the club room, she's always playing ESO too. She never speaks to anyone. That's pretty easy. Even if she was in love with Ito, she'd never talk to him. Hana, Kazuki, Yuki Yamazoe, Miyu Kunisada, Takeshi Shinjo, Masashi Kawahara. I could rule out these 5. Which left?
そして伊藤の言
If
葉
I
から
use
さらに絞り込
Ito's
む
evidence to narrow it down further?
そいつとしばらく話してて、そしたらそうだ、いきなりスマホでお前の写真を見せてきたんだ。
I talked with them, and for a while, that's where they showed me a picture of you on a phone. A picture of you at Alba Dorm with Yui. This picture. Oh, wait, not here. If I was smiling, it meant it was an old one. If nothing else, it had to be before the time I left to go live by myself in the park.
そんな昔の
The
写
only
真
one who could show Ito that
伊藤に見
picture.
せることができる
There's only 3 people who could have done it. Bruce would have pictures of everyone from Alba Dorm, obviously. Probably old photos of me too, which meant she fit the criteria of the real killer.
そんな昔の写真を伊藤に見せることができるのは
Myself
多分
and Sarika, probably. All my old photos of myself and people at Alba Dorm have been lost. Oh no, you're not counting yourself. The phone hadn't been found yet. In other words, you didn't have any photos like that, you weren't the killer. No, when had someone begun controlling Ito's mind? We don't know. I didn't know. I don't know if I've been mind controlled. Maybe it's from before I dropped my phone. It's possible I could have shown Ito the old photo. In other words, I couldn't rule myself out. Boop.
そんな昔の写真を伊藤に見せることができるのは
Probably Sarika.
多分
We don't know Arima, right? Sarika's my childhood friend. She knew me for longer than anyone. Of course, she had plenty of old photos of me. And she came over every day to Alba Dorm. She got along with everyone. Of course, she has a photo of Yui. In other words, she fits the criteria to be the real killer.
そして残ったのはこの3人か
And thus, it's down to these 3. I pursed my lips as I stared at the photos on the map.
この中に真
The
犯
real
人
killer is among these 3.
クルス尾上あるいは
Karus, Onoe, me?
ニュージェネの狂気の再来事件で能力者たちを無残に殺し
One of us was the person who killed all those psychics and did that to Yui? I'd come up with a lot of different theories, but looking back at them, they seemed so impossible. At some point, the setting sun had disappeared beyond the artificial horizon created by the city's skyline, and night was falling. How many hours were left until November 4th began? I grabbed my bag and ran out of the room. I wanted something, some form of unshakable evidence. Evidence proving who the killer was.
いや違うそうじゃないんだ
It's not right, that's not right. It's not what I wanted. What I wanted was proof that neither Karus, Sarika, nor I was the killer. So, this is interesting.
クルス
Karus. I pushed my way through the media campus that's still surrounded the clinic and ran inside just as Uki was coming out of the exam room. She was holding Yuto's laundry and she nearly spilled it on the floor when she saw me.
Takuru-san,
Okay, we'll be quiet, Uki. She told us to be shush shush. Alright?
ゆうとくん、お薬を飲んでやっと眠れたんです。だからお願いです。
Yuto took his medicine and finally fell asleep, so please.
ああ
そんなに慌ててノノさんに何か。
Why are you in such a hurry? Do you need to talk to Nana?
大事な話なんだ
It's important. Where is
今
she?
どこに
さっきまで私と一緒にゆうとくんのお世話を。今は自分のお部屋だと思います。
She was with me and Yuto. I think she's in a room right now.
そうか
I see. I reminded Uki to make sure that once the 4th began, she was to never let herself be alone, and then I headed up the stairs to the dorm.
クルスいるか
Karus, are you here?
クルス
Karus? I knocked on the door, but there was no answer. That was strange. If she was in the room, she should be able to answer.
入るぞ
I'm coming in, okay? I softly turned the doorknob. It wasn't locked. I opened the door a little and looked inside. The lights were off and the room was pitch black.
もう寝たのか
Is she asleep already? Maybe she wasn't feeling well. She tried her best to hide it, but ever since Yui had died, she'd been a mess. Karus is like slightly sus, because if the killer can't read minds, it can only manipulate minds. The fact that he knew where the ID card is pretty bad when you narrow it down to 3 people. It's like, okay, if the killer can't read minds, then they can only dominate, or they can only like force ideas into people's minds, delusion style. Like, they're not mind controlling you, they're kind of just like forcing you to do something delusion by like implanting ideas in your mind. Then it would be Carus, right? Unless they knew that. Well, unless they maybe knew she was friends in the past, maybe. It seems like really sus that they dug up that, if you consider that though. Anyway, she tried her best to hide it, but ever since Yui died, she'd been a mess. She wasn't eating much, and she'd clearly lost weight. It hurt to look at her.
Nah, 大丈夫か? 父さん呼んでこようか?
Are you okay? Should I call Dad? Could just be asleep. I spoke softly as I came inside and approached the bed. What? No one was there. She wasn't lying on the bed or the sofa or sitting at the desk.
どこ行ったんだ?
The hell did she go?
こいつ.
I turned on the lights, but the room was completely empty. I remembered what she'd said something about sleeping in my room before and checked there. Could be in your room, Crash. It was empty too.
おい、クルス?
Hey, Cruz? I didn't want to wake Yuto, but I still shouted as I ran downstairs.
ああ、先輩こんばんはっす。
Yeah, sure, hey there. Armor was in the dining room. She was paging through a girl's magazine, looking bored.
有村、すまないな。ウキのことよろしく頼む。
Armor, sorry. Can you take care of Uki?
いやいや、私あの子の保護者じゃないっすよ。だいたい宮代先輩も狙われてるんですから、一緒にいないとダメでしょ。
I'm not her guardian
てか
anyway.
私とウキのこと守ってくださいよ。
You're a target too, so you need to stay with us. Protect me and Yuki both, why don't you? Armor frowned and glared at me.
4日になったらそうする。それよりクルスを知らないか?
I will once it's the 4th. Anyway, have you seen Cruz?
クルス先輩ですか？
Cruz?
ついさっき出かけたみたいですけど。
出かけた?
She left?
どうして?
Why? I looked at the clock and realized it was already past 7.
さあ、慌てて出て行きましたよ。声をかけてもなんだか生返事で。
I don't know, she was in a hurry. I tried to talk to her and she wasn't paying attention.
僕も出てくる。
I'm leaving too.
すぐに
I'll
戻
be
るから。
back. Watch
とにかく
Yuki
ウキを
for
頼
me.
む。
ちょっと
Wait, I told you I'm
だ
not
から
a guardian.
私は保護者じゃないですって。先輩
Or senpai, I guess. She screamed at me, but I ignored her and ran down the stairs. I had a terrible premonition, and my heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would burst out of my chest. As I was about to exit through the clinic, Uki poked her head out from the exam room again.
タクルさん、すみません。静かに。
Takuru, I'm sorry, can you please be quiet?
そうだった。
Yeah. Something happened.
何かあったんですか？
いや、なんかクル
It's
スの
just
や
that
つが。
Cruz. Then something caught my eye in the exam room. It was Dad's computer, the one Carus had been using before. A pair of stereo headphones were plugged into the front audio terminal. I thought for a moment, and then stopped and went into the exam room. Uki saw the look on my face and drew back a little, as if she was scared.
父さんはいないのか?
Is Dad not here?
昼から患者さんの往診に出ています。ここだとマスコミの方がいて診察にならないって。
Went to look at some patients this afternoon. He says he can't do it here with all the media around.
じゃあ、これは?
And what's this? I pointed to the headphones and Uki looked troubled. She'd probably been told not to tell me. It was definitely Carus who'd been using them. Of course, she wouldn't need these just to browse the internet. Which meant I could guess what she was doing.
クルスのやつも嘘つきだ。
Carus is a liar too, just like I was today. To be fair, we haven't actually done anything yet. I turned on the computer and looked at the browsing history. Imagine not using incognito in 2015. Holy shit. She was either not in the habit of deleting it or had been in a hurry, so she didn't have much time. See, even he's like, why is this not deleted? The history was still there. When I clicked, I found a site with the first video on the Return of the New Generation Madness. Don't look at me.
またこれを見てたのか。
She was watching this again? I put the headphones on and pressed play. I screamed and ripped them off. The volume was so loud I thought it would blow out my eardrums. I could hear Yuto rolling around the bed behind me and Uki put her hand over my mouth. Don't be so loud. I made a sorry gesture and watched as the video kept playing at a loud volume. That was close. I almost went deaf. Had the volume got set to maximum somehow? I quickly lowered it and then put the headphones back on and looked at the screen.
この動画を見てたんだよな。
She was watching
あいつ
this.
は。
Yes.
はい。
Uki's voice was soft, She really had been told to keep quiet about it
これをずっと
this whole time.
いえ、私その映像とっても怖くて見ないようにしてましたから。でもずっとじゃなくて何度も止めたり動かしたりしてた気がします。
The video really scared me. I tried not to watch it, but I think she kept stopping and replaying the same section over and over.
そうしたら何かに気づいたみたいで、突然自分の部屋に用があるからしばらく優斗くんをお願いって。
She seemed to notice something. She suddenly told me she needed to go to her room and asked me to watch Yuto.
それ以上はあんまりわからないです。
I don't know much more than that. I'm sorry. Her shoulders slumped as if she was ashamed at her uselessness.
いや、ありがとな。
No, thanks. I nodded and told her not to worry about it.
タクル兄ちゃん。
Takuru? Then I heard a frail voice.
タクル兄ちゃん。
It's you, right, Takuru?
起こしちゃったか。
Did I wake you up? Sorry.
すみません、優斗くん。
Sorry, Yuto. It was Yuto. He hadn't been asleep after all.
い
It's fine.
いんだ。
I looked over at the bed and saw the drugs had almost put him to sleep again. He was trying his best to keep his tired eyes open.
ね、僕知ってる。
I know what she was doing. What?
のの姉ちゃんね、何回も同じところだけ見てたよ。
Nono was
マ
looking
ウ
at
ス
one
を
part
使う
over and
音
over.
とイヤホンから漏れてくる音で。
I could tell from the sounds of the mouse
わかった。
what was coming out of her headphones.
何回も
Just one part,
同じところだけ。
over and over. She'd only been watching one part of the video, but why?
まさか。
No way. A clue in the video? No way. I stared at the computer screen. Had Karuz found something? Some clue to the killer? Did she find something in this video?
タクル
Takuru.
兄ちゃん。
Watched Yuto go see.
お姉ちゃんの敵を取れるかな。僕とお姉ちゃんをもう二度と会えなくした悪いやつ。
Can you take revenge for my sister?
捕まえられるかな。
Can you catch the person who made it so I'll never see my sister again?
ああ、任せとけ。僕が捕まえてやる。絶対に捕まえてやるからな。
Appropriate piano music. Good job, by the way, Mr. Composer. Alright, leave it to me. I'll catch them. I'll catch them no matter what.
お姉ちゃん。
Yuto started to cry, so I left him in Inuki's care as I took the phone into my pocket and dialed a number I knew very well. I grew more anxious with each passing ring.
どこ行ったんだよ。
Curtis, where did you go? Pick up the phone.
まさか一人で犯人のところへ行ったんじゃないだろうな。やめろよ、お前。
You didn't go to find the killer yourself, did you? I told you not to do that. But this is what you'd do if you found the killer first, right? I know exactly what you'd think. I suddenly felt like I heard her voice.
いつまでも姉貴ぶるなよ。本当は泣き虫で臆病で僕に甘えてばっかのくせに。さっさと演じしろよ、バカ野郎。
How long are you gonna keep pretending to be my big sister? You're a crybaby and a coward. You always rely on me to pick up the phone, damn it. The only thing I heard was the endless ringing sound. November 3rd, 2015, Tuesday. What time? Uragawacho Shibuya. On the path to Heikiho Academy. Are we following Karus? I think we're following Karus. But I think we'll have to find out what's going on and what she's found out next time.